Hello everyone, this is What If Naruto Learns from the Library Part 1 and this is Milton_fanfiction. Before we start, thanks everyone for 317 subscribers, thank you very much for the support. Please do consider subscribing to this channel, like, comment and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss the latest uploads like this. Anyways, let's begin.
Chapter 1, Prologue, Meeting Kurama. 4-year-old Naruto Uzumaki walked down the street ignoring all the glares directed at him. Acknowledging the venom directed at him only seemed to encourage them. That was one of the first things he had picked up in his life. The skill to ignore the world around him. So disconnected was he from reality that he did not see or hear the cart that was aimed at him until it was too late. The acrid smell of disinfectant and tobacco greeted Naruto as he opened his eyes. Ignoring the shooting pain in his right leg, he sat up with a groan and looked around. He was in a drab, dusty hospital room, and sitting by his bed, calmly smoking his pipe, was the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. With another groan, he pulled off the sheet covering him and inspected his leg. As the pain had indicated, his right leg was covered in a swathe of heavy bandages. "What happened, Gigi? Why am I in the hospital?" he asked softly, staring at his battered limb. "Don't you remember Naruto?" The young boy shook his head. "You were attacked. There was an attempt to run you over. Luckily for you, they botched it up. You only received a glancing blow. Your injuries are not too severe and you should recuperate quite soon. My men have apprehended the people responsible, and I will be personally ensuring that they are thoroughly punished." Naruto nodded slowly, digesting the information. With a grimace, he tried to move his leg. Shooting tendrils of pain rushed up to his head from his leg. "Don't get up. You need to rest. You're lucky to have no broken bones, but it's better if you don't move around too much." Naruto cursed under his breath. He couldn't get up even if he wanted to. The pain coursing through his body was clouding his mind. With another groan, he lay back down. He didn't think he would be going anywhere tonight. "Naruto, why were you roaming around so late at night when I have explicitly told you not to do so? You were supposed to be home with your caretaker. She kicked me out." Naruto glanced at the old man out of the corner of his eye, and saw a look of barely controlled anger on the Gigi's face. "What? Why did Minami-san do that? Weren't you two getting along well? You told me that she was much nicer than the previous two caretakers. It was my fault, not hers." "Why? What happened?" "I was playing in the house and I broke a vase. I tried to clean it up before Minami-san saw, but I cut the back of my hand on a piece of broken glass. There was some blood. Minami-san brought some bandages to tape it. But then she..." Naruto stopped talking abruptly. He didn't want to remember what had happened after that. He didn't want to remember the look of fear his caretaker had thrown at him. She had taken one look at his cut, and a look of abject terror had materialized on her face. She had called him a demon. She had screamed at him to leave and to never come back. It had hurt. He was used to being called a demon by strangers. But when it came from the nice Minami-san, it had really hurt. Minami-san who cooked so well. Minami-san who was so much kinder than his previous caretakers. Minami-san who had told him that he was like her own son. "Naruto, I know it is difficult, but you have to tell me what happened if you want me to help you." "I don't know. She just looked at my hand and began to scream. She called me a demon and told me leave," mumbled Naruto, still refusing to look at the man he considered to be his grandfather. A few drops of salty tears slowly leaked out of his eyes. Sarutobi was once again at a loss for words. He found that this happened a lot when he was dealing with Naruto. All that he had wished for was to give the boy a happy childhood. A childhood free of hatred and assassination attempts. Given his burden, his life was going to be a difficult one at best. Today was the irrefutable proof that he had failed miserably at that. For the first time in all his years as Hokage, he did not know what to do. He didn't know what to say to allay the boy's fears. He lifted the boy off the bed and hugged him as if he was embracing his own son. He stroked the boy's back soothingly. "Naruto, don't worry. You're not a demon. Don't believe anything that woman said to you. You're a human just like I am. You're just like any other person in this village. What happened was not your fault. It's just that Minami-san couldn't understand how special you are. Gigi, please don't leave me like Minami-san and Aoi-san and Inoue-san did. Minami-san said that I had fooled you somehow. She said you would come to your senses one day and see what I really was. I swear, Gigi, I am not playing any trick on you. I swear. I would never do anything like that to you. Please don't leave me like the rest of them. Please." The boy was shaking with sobs. He was going to flay that woman. How could she utter such insensitive words to an innocent boy like this? She had almost broken him. He pulled the boy's head up gently by his chin and looked into his eyes. "Naruto, believe me when I say this. I will never leave you. I know that you aren't playing any tricks on me. I know what kind of person you really are. I trust you, don't worry. I swear that I will always be there for you." Naruto pulled his head free, buried his face into Sarutobi's chest, and continued sobbing. Sarutobi had never seen the boy cry before. "Gigi, why does everyone hate me? Why do they keep trying to kill me? What did I ever do to them? How do I make them stop? Please tell me. I'll do anything and everything. Please tell me." Sarutobi hugged the boy tighter. Naruto, I can't tell you the reason now. You are not ready for it yet, but you will be someday, and I promise to tell you then. However, listen to what I'm going to say to you now, and never forget it. When you were born, you were chosen to be the hero who would protect this village. However, the villagers do not know that and they hate you for it. Instead of succumbing to your anger towards them, you have to overcome your hate. You must endure their anger and prove to them with your deeds that you truly are a hero. You must not give in to hate and lower yourself to their level because you are made of better material than them. You're better than them and I know it. Only if you work hard will you ever be respected by everyone. I know that it's not fair. I know that this path is very difficult, but that is why you were chosen. You're the only one who can do it. Because you are a hero. It's up to you if you want to go down the path chosen for you. Even if you don't understand what I just said, remember it. You will understand it one day, I promise you. Sarutobi slowly rocked the boy on his lap. With time, the boy's sobs faded away. After a while, Naruto pulled himself free and climbed back gingerly onto his bed. He wiped his face with the sheet and started staring out of the window. Sighing, Sarutobi got up to leave. Naruto, you stay here for a while. I'll try and find a new caretaker for you as soon as I can. Someone more trustworthy than the previous 3. No Gigi, don't bother. She'll also leave me as soon as she can. I don't need a caretaker anymore. I can take care of myself. Let me be. It's better like this. It's easier like this. I'm sick of the betrayals. I don't need any more of them. Once again Sarutobi didn't know what to say. Fine. I'll give you an apartment and open an account for you in the bank. Since your parents were shinobi, the village will give you a yearly grant. It's not much, but if you are smart then you will be able to get by easily. With that and a heavy heart, he left the boy to his thoughts. Naruto watched the man he considered to be his grandfather walk out of his room. Once the old man had left, he turned his attentions to his window. Naruto stared out of the window, his eyes out of focus, as he thought about what the old man had told him. His words hadn't made any sense. How could somebody like him be a hero? Why had he been chosen in the first place? He had no special skills. At least none that he knew of. And why had he not been given a choice in the matter? It was a mystery. That was what his life was. A complete mystery. He had so many questions but nobody ever answered them. No one. Not even the old man. He was kind and took care of him, but he never gave him what he really wanted. His whirling thoughts coupled with his pounding leg to give him a headache. He lay back down and let sleep overpower him. He sighed as the pain faded away and he drifted off into oblivion. In his dreams he was floating. Floating in a sea. A red sea. Boy, do not listen to the foolish ramblings of that old man. He does not understand your pain. I do. I know how it feels to be hated by everyone. Kill them. Kill all of them. Take out all your hatred on them. Use my power and end everything. Naruto opened his eyes with a start. He stood in a large room. A dark room. There were rusty, corrugated pipes running up the walls and the floor was flooded with dark, bubbling water. In front of him was a large cage. Large enough to fit the entire Hokage building within it. Within it was a gigantic red beast with 9 tails. The beast was radiating pure hatred and sheer power. It pushed forward against the bars of his cage and pinned him down with its monstrous killing intent. Images of his impending death flashed through Naruto's mind. He could feel the caged animal's anger penetrating through his skin and all the way to his very bones. It was primal. It was unimaginably powerful and overbearing. His knees began to shake as he struggled to remain standing. You are the Kyuubi. But you're supposed to be dead. The Yondaime Hokage killed you. There's a festival held every year for it. Where am I? What's going on? How did I get here? Is this a dream? Cried Naruto in panic. This is no dream. This is the realm inside you. This is your mind. Use my chakra. Use my power. Use it and kill all those who look down upon you. Only then shall you know peace. Naruto woke up with a jolt, his stomach burning as it were on fire. Sarutobi was almost at the end of the corridor when he felt an aura. An aura that he had last felt 4 years ago, the night Naruto had been born. The night his successor and his wife had sacrificed themselves for the sake of the village. Dread filled him. He shined back into Naruto's room. The boy lay on the bed covered in a red chakra cloak. His normally cute whiskers were now feral, like that of a fox. Fangs were protruding out of his mouth. His nails were transforming into claws. Sarutobi stood shocked for a second. Then his hands rushed together to make hand signs. The tips of the fingers of his right hand began to glow blue. Let's hope this works, thought Sarutobi as he slammed his hand onto the boy's stomach. Naruto jolted awake and noticed that his stomach felt as if it had been hit by a boulder. He looked up and saw the Gigi staring at him with anxiety in his eyes. Naruto, what happened? Are you okay? How do you feel? Naruto was confused. His mind was spinning. With a shaky breath, he slowly sat up. Had that been a dream? Had he been hallucinating? But it had felt so real. Was the Kyuubi really sealed within him? His head pounded with all the possibilities. He needed time to think. He looked up at the old man and was about to open his mouth but was interrupted before he could utter a word. Two uniformed shinobi burst in through the door before he could answer. Simultaneously, an Anbu operative in a boar mask materialized noiselessly behind the Hokage with a hand on his tanto. Naruto stared at the intruders blankly, his confusion growing every instant. Hokage-sama, I felt, started the Anbu in a toneless, modulated voice but was interrupted before he could say anything more. Yes, I know what you felt, and it has been taken care of. Leave us and do not breathe a word of this to anyone, snapped Sarutobi, his eyes boring into Naruto. At their commander's order, the shinobi vacated the room as quickly and silently as they had entered. Naruto, are you okay? Asked Sarutobi gently. I'm fine, Gigi. Just some sort of weird dream. A dream? Indulge this old man and tell me about this dream of yours. I don't remember anything, lied Naruto. I can never remember my dreams. He could see that the old man didn't believe him. The old man stared at him for a few seconds and then turned around. Get some rest, Naruto. I will come back later to check on you. He watched as the old man walked out, thankful that he hadn't been pressed for an answer. He would have been hard-pressed had that situation arose. He waited for a while to make sure that the old man was really gone. The pain in his leg had receded to a gentle throb. He seemed to have healed up significantly in his short nap. He slowly got off the bed and gingerly stood up. His stomach rolled with nausea and his leg twinged as he put his weight upon it, but both were bearable. He was used to physical discomfort. He opened the window of his room and slipped out. Sarutobi stormed into his office with a vicious look on his face, glaring at the man waiting for him. Explain yourself, he shouted at the top of his voice. The target was a silver-haired Anbu agent in a wolf mask. The man bent down and kneeled as his leader stormed towards him. I gave you this responsibility because I trusted you. I had believed that you would protect your own sensei's son with your life. Yet Naruto is in hospital now. Explain yourself? He roared. The room shook with Sarutobi's anger. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. He was in the marketplace, and I was consigned to the rooftops. I was too slow in noticing the attempt, and too far away to stop it. I have failed sensei and I have broken the trust you placed in me. I accept all responsibility for my actions and am ready for any punishment that you see fit to mete out to me. Sarutobi's anger collapsed like a burst bubble, and was replaced by deep sadness. Kakashi, Minato never wanted this for his son. He wanted his son to be known as a hero. But I could not keep that promise. Naruto's lineage had to be hidden to protect him. We have both failed in our duty to Minato's memory. I am no better than you. Keep a better watch on him. Do not fail your sensei again. The boy was lucky this time. His luck may not hold the next time somebody makes an attempt on his life. I am grateful, Hokage-sama. This will not happen again. If I may speak freely, sir, you may. Why do you insist on assigning him civilian caretakers? They know nothing about the Kyuubi. They think Naruto is the demon himself in human form. Why don't you give him to a shinobi family? There are many who are more than ready to accept the responsibility. He will be safer, and he will be able to meet other children of his age and actually have a normal childhood. No. I have thought about but decided against it. By doing that, I would be compelling him to be a shinobi. That is something I do not want to do. If he wants to become a shinobi, it should be of his own choice. If he chooses to, he may remain a civilian. I will not force him to be a weapon for the village. That is your reason? You consign him to a childhood of hate just because you don't want him to feel compelled to become a shinobi? He is a Jinchuriki, and that of the Kyuubi no less. He is destined to become a shinobi. Think of who his parents are. Yes. That is true. It is also true that he has been cursed to a difficult life without him having a say in the matter. He will never have a normal life and he will never be given the same opportunities which others will be given. I want to give him the chance to at least decide if he wants to die in a battlefield, or of old age surrounded by family. His trusted shinobi was rendered mute for once. I believe it's time you got back to your duties. If I know him correctly, Naruto must have sneaked out of the hospital already. Without a word, the copy ninja melted away. As soon as he left, Sarutobi called in his secretary. Let it be known that today's attackers have received life imprisonment. If there is another attack on the boy, I will have the perpetrators executed. Hi, Hokage-sama. With a heavy heart, Sarutobi sat down and reached for his hidden stash of sake. He was going to need it when the civilian council arrived and demanded that he overturn his ruling. He thanked his lucky stars that he had placed the boy in an isolated wing of the hospital. If Moore had sensed the Kyuubi's chakra, he would be facing a riot. Naruto settled himself down on top of the Yandame's head. This was the place he went to whenever he needed to think. Or a place to hide. The place had a calming effect on him that he never felt elsewhere. He was the Kyuubi's container. What he had seen could not have been a dream. It had been too real. He could still feel his bones vibrating from that fleeting meeting. His mind was still reverberating from the fox's voice. That was why everyone hated him. The Yandame had not sacrificed himself to kill the Kyuubi. He had sacrificed himself to seal the Kyuubi within Naruto. To the villagers, he was the one who had killed their kin, razed their homes and taken away their beloved Hokage. Why had he been chosen? His birthday was on the same day as the Kyuubi attack. Was it because he had been a newborn? He might have been the only newborn available at the time. Could the QB only be sealed within newborn babies? Why not seal it within a strong shinobi like the Gigi? The old man's words suddenly made sense to him now. He realized why the old man had called him a hero. He understood what the old man wanted from him. For the first time in an eternity, his life made sense. He knew now why the village hated him. He got up and went back to the hospital. A week later, Naruto ran into his new apartment with barely contained excitement. He had left the hospital as soon as the Gigi had gotten him this place. The Gigi had hired someone to bring over all of his belongings from Minami-san's house. He was grateful for the old man's thoughtfulness. He had been dreading returning there. His new house was small but completely furnished. He supposed that he would have to learn how to cook, now that he was going to be living alone. He sank onto his couch. It was threadbare and lumpy, but it was his. This whole place was his. He let out a small hoot of happiness. His happiness faded away after a while. It was time to get down to business. He had been planning this for a week. Ever since his dream. He sat down in the middle of his living room, closed his eyes and formed the lotus position. He then started to meditate. He reached out to the boiling rage within him that he could always feel bubbling away. The rage he had always kept locked away. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the large room with pipes. He looked up at the cage within him. His prisoner was wreathed in darkness. He could only just make out his monstrous form in the darkness. "Hello," he called. The room reverberated as the QB released a deep growl. Two huge eyes flicked upon and glared down at him. There was no killing intent directed at him yet. The QB moved forward into the light and settled down onto his paws. "You have come here of your own volition, mortal. You are stupider than you look but brave." Naruto stared back at his prisoner with no fear in his eyes. "Tell me, what do you want?" "Nothing. I just wanted to see the reason why my village hates me." Naruto opened his eyes and returned to his house. The next day, Naruto woke up with a grumbling stomach. He decided that it was not a nice way to start the day. He sighed. He supposed he would now have to go shopping for food. His caretakers had always taken care of that till now. Then it struck him that he had no clue what to do with the food after he bought it. He cursed himself for not learning how to cook from Minami-san while he could. His stomach released another loud grumble. Cursing his stomach, Naruto got up and decided to wing it. Naruto stared at the sheer number of vegetables, fruits, meats and dairy products arrayed before him. He had no idea what to buy or how to cook any of them. Now that he thought about it, he didn't even know if his apartment came with the utensils that he would need to make a meal. Not that he knew how to use them. In a daze, he wandered deeper into the store, avoiding the sullen gaze of the owner. His wandering eyes came to rest on the instant food counter. That was something he could handle. Instant pasta. Instant pizza. Instant ramen. A quick inspection told him instant ramen was the cheapest. He picked 4 packs and made his way back to the sales counter. The owner schooled his face into a small smile as he approached. "Sir, if you don't mind, could you please replace those packs from where you picked them up? Those items are for display only. If you'll wait a few seconds, I'll bring some fresh stock from the back." Naruto nodded. This was the first time shopping. How was he supposed to have known about display items? He replaced the packs and waited for the owner to return. The owner was back in a few seconds like he promised. "Let me ring these up for you, sir. You mind if I see those?" A female voice called out. Naruto turned and saw that the owner of the voice was a young woman with brown hair. She stormed up to the counter and snatched the box of ramen from the owner's hands. Turning it over, she peered at the label. What she saw did not make her happy. "You sick bastard. How dare you try to cheat an innocent boy like that? Don't you have any shame? These are all way past their expiration dates. I am San. This is not some innocent kid. This is that demon kid. He doesn't deserve your kindness," the shopkeeper replied hotly. "Shut up. Look at that cute face of his. Does he look like a demon to you? Shame on you. I'm going to tell all my friends to avoid this place from now on." She walked up to Naruto, smiled at him and held out her hand. "Hi. I'm Ayam. Come with me. I'll help you buy whatever you want." She grasped Naruto's hand and pulled him along behind her. Naruto stared up at the kind lady who had helped him. She had touched him. She was still touching him. Almost everyone avoided physical contact with him. Her hand felt warm and nice. "So tell me, what do you need to buy?" "Oh wait, that was so rude of me. I didn't even ask you your name." Naruto pulled his hand free. "Why are you doing this?" "Huh? What do you mean? You touched me." "Nobody touches me. People run away when I go near them. And you stopped that shopkeeper from cheating me." "Why?" I am frowned down at him. A vein appeared on her forehead. A very angry vein. "Young man, do you know how rude that was? I help you out, and you insult me in return? Apologize now." Naruto backed away in fear. The woman looked scary as hell. He guessed that it wasn't a good idea to piss her off. He held up his hands in apology. "Sorry, Nechan," he said with trembling knees. "I was rude and stupid. Please forgive me." Ayam smiled, her anger disappearing in an instant, and bent down to his height. "Just because others aren't nice to you doesn't mean that I have to be the same. Besides, you're so cute, there is no way I could be mean to you." She reached out and pulled his cheeks. Naruto grimaced but didn't try to free himself. He didn't want to set this woman off again. He had thought looking for food to buy had been hell, but this was much worse. This woman was angry at him one instant and petting him the next. He decided to do his best to avoid her in the future. As he came to this conclusion, his stomach let go another rumble. She heard it and let go of his cheeks. For the first time today his stomach had done something useful for him. You're starving, aren't you? Come on. My dad and I run a restaurant. You can eat something there. It's not too far away. The Gigi had told him not to follow strangers, especially the ones that offered him things. His stomach groaned again. He shrugged and followed the crazy woman. If she was going to kill him, then at least he would die with a satisfied stomach. If he became a ghost, he didn't want to be stuck hunting people whilst he was eternally hungry. He would prefer to scare them with his moans, not with his grumbling stomach. A couple of hours of hunger was more than enough for him. Hey dad? We have a customer. This is Naruto-kun. Whip him up a bowl. Sure. Have a seat, young man. What do you have? Naruto stared at the menu for a few seconds, struggling with the characters. The Gigi had taught him how to read recently, but he still needed more practice. One miso ramen. Good choice. It'll be ready in a couple of minutes. True to his word, Tsuchi-san placed a delicious-smelling bowl in front of him. As Naruto inhaled the aroma, his hunger amplified. He dug in with gusto. It was even tastier than it smelled. Oi Gigi? How much for one bowl? 20 real. Naruto ran a couple of calculations in his mind. Another skill the Gigi had taught him. Eating here would turn out to be cheaper than buying the food himself. Besides, it saved him the hassle of learning how to cook. Plus, the food smelled heavenly. Great. One more, old man. 2 days later, Naruto walked back into his house after dinner at Ichiraku. He had been eating all his meals in the place for the past couple of days. 2 days he had spent thinking about his prisoner. He had questions. Many questions. And for once he believed that he was going to get answers. He closed the door behind him and walked over to the center of the room. He sat down and closed his eyes once more. His sandals were soaked through with water in an instant. The water had been hot enough to scald him when during his first involuntary visit into his mindscape. This time, however, the water pooling around his feet was cool. Cold enough to feel pleasant against his skin. He opened his eyes and stared up at the Kyuubi once more. Back then, you offered to give me power. Why? One ominous eye flicked open and peered down imperiously at him. You wanted to kill. I offered you the power you needed to do so. I didn't want to kill anybody, said Naruto, shaking his head. I was angry. Angry at them. But I didn't want to kill anyone. I can sense your emotions, boy. I have been doing so for a long time. I know what hatred feels like. I don't want to kill them, repeated Naruto. Why not? Why do they deserve your mercy? They have tried to kill you on multiple occasions in the past. I've been watching. You have only survived so far because of my healing power. Why save me? Let me die. Then you'd be free. The Kyuubi growled and lifted his head. He opened both his eyes and looked at Naruto. Because if you die, then I die. I see. No, you don't. With time, I will reform. But it is a painful and time-consuming process. Even this sewer is preferable to that. The Kyuubi growled in distaste and settled back down. You didn't answer the question. Why did you try to give me power? The water began to bubble. The temperature in the room shot up in an instant. The Kyuubi's eyes snapped open and glared down at his jailer in fury. I did give you an answer, boy. I do not like being asked to repeating myself. To kill them. But why? The villagers have done nothing to you. The gargantuan beast reared up and roared. Lifting his arm, he took a mighty swipe at his cage, but the bars blocked his attack with ease. He reared back again and charged at the bars. The bars vibrated from the force of the attack but held. With a snarl of rage, the Kyuubi stuck his hand through the bars and clawed at Naruto. The water boiled with a vengeance and began to rise in level. The Kyuubi's huge killing intent was directed at him again. Panic and fear clawed at him. With a huge effort, he held them at bay. You puny humans have imprisoned me in this cage time and time again for no fault of my own. I have been cursed and hated for centuries. Why should I not tear all you mortals apart? For the first time, anger bloomed within Naruto as well. No fault of your own? You attacked us. You killed so many families. You destroyed more than half the village. I have heard the stories and I've seen how much of the village is newly built. He shouted. The Kyuubi's anger seemed to subside. He retreated back into the shadows. His deep voice was much softer when he spoke. I did not attack your village. Lies. Screamed Naruto. It's true, boy. When I attacked your village, I was under somebody else's control. More lies. How can anyone control something like you? There is one who can do it. Who? Uchiha Madara. Spat the Kyuubi. Naruto had never heard that name before. He would have to read up about this Madara person and find out if he even existed. If this man was powerful enough to control something like the Kyuubi, then he was most definitely famous. He snapped open his eyes and returned to the real world. He was going to have to ask the old man, and he really wasn't in the mood to talk to him anytime soon. not after he had hidden something like the Kyuubi from him. The next day, Naruto walked into the Sandaime Hokage's office as the mission assignment shift ended. The old man looked up from the note he was reading and smiled at Naruto. "Hello Naruto. How's your new flat coming along?" he asked as he got back to reading his note. "It's okay," said Naruto as he sat down. Good. Good. What are you doing for meals?" "I'm managing," replied the boy evasively. "I have something to ask. It's about a shinobi." Years of dabbling in politics had required that he be able to detect even an undercurrent of hostility. And right now, Naruto was generating quite a lot of it. He put down the note and turned his full attention onto his adoptive grandson. Not one for games, he jumped right in. "You seem angry? Have I done something wrong?" The boy's eyes widened on being caught out. "No. I'm not angry. When you lived as long as Sarutobi had, you got quite good at detecting lies as well." Becoming Hokage at an extremely young age had just steepened the learning curve. He now had two options. He could either call Naruto out, or he could let him simmer for a while. The boy would open up to him sooner or later. "I see. Who did you want to talk about?" he asked. "Uchiha Madara." Sarutobi schooled his face with ease. Years as Hokage had helped him develop that skill as well. Madara was a name he had not heard in a while. Hearing it from a 4-year-old boy was even more surprising. "Where did you hear that name?" he asked softly, his voice level. I heard Tsuchunin talking about him in a restaurant." Another lie. And a rather bad one at that. He let it pass. "I see. And what were they saying about him?" "Well, they were saying something about how he can control the Kyuubi," he said, his voice trailing away uncomfortably. Another obvious lie. And a troubling one at that, but it was too late for him to call him out on it now. Not how he can. How he could. Uchiha Madara is dead. And he has been so for many years now. He was defeated in battle by the Shodai Hokage, said Sarutobi, pointing at his predecessor's painting with his pipe. "So what did you want to ask about him?" "Well, if people can control the Kyuubi, then why did the Yondaime have to sacrifice himself to defeat the Kyuubi?" Something was wrong and Sarutobi knew it right away. All these questions hit too close to home to be a coincidence. "No. It is impossible to control a Bijou." Wait," interrupted Naruto. "You mean there are more like the Kyuubi?" Sarutobi nodded. "Yes. There are 9. They range from the Ichibi to the Kyuubi." The boy stared at him, listening raptly. "Yes. There are 9, said Sarutobi contemplatively. "Anyway, back to your question. It is normally impossible to control a Bijou. However, an extremely few exceptionally talented people have managed to do so over the years. Uchiha Madara was one. The Shodai Hokage was another." He looked up at the ceiling and thought. "If you want to know more about them, then you should read the Academy textbook on the history of a shinobi. From what I remember, it has quite an in-depth description of the rivalry between Uchiha Madara and Hashirama-sama." "I see. So the Yondaime had no choice." "Yes," said the Sandaime gravely. Silence fell upon them for a while. "Thanks, Gigi," said Naruto as he jumped off his seat and made to leave. "Naruto," called the Sandaime. "Be careful who you talk to about this topic. It's quite sensitive." "You're welcome to come to me about it whenever you want." Naruto nodded as he left the room. Sarutobi stared at the closed door. The boy was definitely too intelligent for his own good. He was going to have to keep a closer watch. Once the door was closed behind, Naruto's face split into a tiny smile. He was making progress. The old man was definitely suspicious but had given him the information he wanted nevertheless. The next evening, Naruto burst into his flat with a gigantic scowl plastered on his face. He had spent the entire day in the public library reading up on anything and everything he could find on Uchiha Madara. And he hadn't liked what he had found. "Uchiha Madara is dead. He has been dead for more than 50 years, he screamed at his prisoner. The Kyuubi released a hot breath of air as he stood up and looked at his jailer. "I know. I was there. I saw him die. But the man who wrenched me from your mother had..." "My mother? What are you talking about?" "Your mother. My previous host. You were sealed within my mother?" asked the stunned Naruto. "Yes. Kushina Uzumaki." Naruto didn't know what to say. The Gigi had told him that his parents had been shinobi. He had been told that his parents had died during the attack of the Kyuubi. He hadn't in his wildest dreams even considered that his mother had been cursed to the same fate as he was. He gasped as he returned to his room, his thoughts in a turmoil and his focus completely shattered. Why hadn't he been told about his mother? Why hadn't the Gigi told him about the Kyuubi? With a growl, he punched himself in the face to control his turbulent thoughts. It didn't help. Confused, he went out into the cool, dark night. He shivered as he walked aimlessly down the street, cursing himself for not wearing something warmer. Why had the old man not told him about the monster within him? Did the old man not trust Naruto? Was he afraid that he would use the power the Kyuubi had offered to kill others? Completely lost in his own thoughts, Naruto walked squarely into another pedestrian, and they both crashed to the floor. With a groan, he cradled his head as he sat up. He had cracked it quite heavily against the pavement. Shaking his head to clear the lights dancing in his eyes, he looked up to see the man he had walked into glaring at him with barely concealed hatred. The man obviously knew who he was. What he was. You fucking bastard. The man snarled at him as they both scrambled up. How dare you attack me like that? Naruto didn't even blink. He was used to others twisting his actions. I'm sorry, he said, bowing his head to the man. I did not see where I was going. He brushed past the man and walked away briskly before he could say anything else. Why? Why stoop your head? You have done nothing wrong. You don't deserve their rejection. Why apologize? Yo, because if I fight back, then I'm no better than them. Naruto closed his mind to the beast within him and walked until he couldn't walk anymore. 2 days later, Naruto stood in front of a grave with a bunch of flowers in his hand. Bending down, he placed the bouquet on the grave marker and sat down next to it. The flowers had cost him most of his month's allowance. It had taken him 2 days of persistent scouring to find his mother's grave. Hello, mother, he said, staring at the inscription. You probably don't recognize me, but I'm your son. Naruto. He paused for a while. I came to talk to you, you know. I guess that you might have wanted to know that I was doing okay. I'm fine, I guess. The Gigi got me a new flat last week. It's small, but I like it. It's just me in there and I like it that way. I'm 4 years old now. Should have told you that first, I guess. Only 3 to 4 attempts on my life in 4 years. So I guess it's been an okay 4 years for me, he said bitterly. He sighed as he stood up. That was sarcasm, in case you didn't realize. I don't even know whether you appreciate sarcasm or not. I guess that I'm never going to find out, he called over his shoulder as he walked home. A week later, it was raining very heavily as Naruto walked down the line of gravestones. Hello, mother, he said as he placed the drenched bouquet on the grave marker. Hope you don't mind wet flowers. I picked them myself. Can't afford to buy them again. I don't have an umbrella, so there's nothing I could do about it, he said as he brushed his wet hair out of his eyes. I just ate at a Chiraku's. They sell really awesome ramen there. Tuchi-san, the owner, is really nice. Not like the other villagers. He gives me a couple of free bowls every week. Says that I'm his best customer. I have to be his best customer since I eat there every day, he laughed. His daughter, Ayam-san, is nice too. She's scary but nice. She's also not like the other villagers. Did the villagers hate you as well? They must have, cause they definitely hate me. Did you hate them as well? He asked softly. He closed his eyes and looked up at the stormy sky. He could see the flashes of lightning through his eyelids. I used to hate them as well. I went out to the festival last year and they tried to kill me. And Anbu stopped them before they finished the job. I used to hate them. But it was tiring. I was angry all the time. It just gave me a headache. Made my mind spin, so I gave up. Stopped caring about them. Made everything easier. What did you do? Did you try to kill them? Did the Kyuubi offer you his power as well? He sighed. Every time I come here, I curse myself for talking to a dead person. Someone who can't talk back to me. Every time I go home, I get lonely. So I end up coming here. You must have had people to talk to. A father. A mother. A family. My father. Must have been nice. Hot tears mixed with the cold rainwater and ran down his face. Why me, mother? Why was I chosen? Why did you die and leave me with this thing inside me? Naruto's sneakers squelched noisily on his carpet. He pulled off his sneakers and lay down onto his couch, not caring if it got wet. He closed his eyes and focused on entering the world within him. Each time was easier than the previous one. With a sigh, he sat down in the water and hugged his knees. Don't you ever get tired? Of what? Of being angry all the time. Try being imprisoned alone for years on end, boy. I'm a prisoner as well. I can't leave this place because of you. And I'm alone. Nobody comes near me because of you. The Kyuubi stared at him intently but gave no response. I used to hate them as well. For how they treated me. The people in the orphanage. My caretakers. I was angry at them all the time. But I just got tired of it. Being angry didn't help me in any way. It didn't make my life suck any less. It just made my head hurt. So I stopped. I stopped caring. Why are you telling me all this? You're the only person who I can talk to, you know. You're not just imprisoned with me. Both of us are imprisoned together in this village. The Kyuubi rose on his haunches and stared silently at Naruto. You're a strange one, boy. No one has ever talked to me before. Not your mother. Not the one before her. Huh? Said Naruto, lifting his head from between his knees. You're lonely as well, are you? He laughed softly. Ironic, isn't it? The room reverberated as the Kyuubi's chest rumbled with laughter. Not ironic, boy. Sad. Laughably sad. They stared silently at each other for a while. Uchiha Madara. He was killed long ago. You lied to me. I did not lie to you. I saw Madara die with my own eyes. I was there when he fought the Shodai Hokage. But the man who pulled me out from your mother, I did not see his face, but he had the same chakra as Madara. The same malevolence. Why should I believe you? I am placing no compulsion on you to accept my words. I'm simply telling you the truth. It is up to you if you want to believe it. I can offer evidence if you need persuasion. The Kyuubi stood up, pushed his fist through the bars of his cage and held it out to Naruto. Naruto stared at the fist with a blank expression on his face. Then he stood up and started walking slowly towards the Kyuubi. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you if you come any closer? You could. But I'm willing to take the risk. I'm curious about this evidence you once showed me. You trust the word of a stranger so easily? You're naive, boy. You'll die easily in this world. Naruto shrugged. The last time you tried to kill me, the water was boiling. It almost burned my skin off, he said, gesturing at the water as he walked. Look at how calm it is right now. Somehow I get the feeling that if you wanted to kill me, I'd know. He lifted his fist and pressed it against the Kyuubi's fist. You're lucky, boy. If you had come this close yesterday, I would have shredded you. Today I'm curious to see how you react. A rush of images and sounds flooded Naruto's mind. The image of a red eye. A red eye with 3 tomo. The eye began to spin. A masked man with a red eye. Loss of control. A beautiful woman with red hair, the Kyuubi trying to kill the woman. A man with blonde, spiky hair just like his. A man who looked just like the Yandame Hokage statue. The village. The Kyuubi attacking the village. The Gigi fighting back. Freedom from the control. Confusion and a boiling anger. A huge, black ball of energy. A giant toad. A huge explosion. The man and the woman again. A newborn baby. A baby with blonde hair. A giant claw impaling the man and the woman. The woman's last words to her baby. The woman's last words to him. His mother's last words to him. His father's last words to him. With a cry, he jumped back and fell to his knees in the lukewarm water. A barrage of hot tears escaped from his eyes and flooded his face. He pressed his hands to his face and tried to calm down his racing heart and mind. He tried to make sense of the images he had received. The Yandame was his father. He had sacrificed himself and his mother to save the village. You killed them. You killed my parents. Yes. Yes, I did. Anger and grief flooded him. He saw red. He woke up with a roar of rage. Tears were still streaming out of his eyes. Tears of anger. Tears of grief mourning the death of his parents. He bolted. He burst out of his flat barefoot. He ran. He ran into the raining night. He ran until he could feel no more. When Naruto woke up, he was lying in own bed. With tired, shaking arms, he lifted the covers and saw that was wearing his pajamas. He rolled off his bed, wondering how he had gotten back home and who had changed him. He walked into his bathroom for his morning ablutions. He glanced at his reflection in his mirror as he pulled off his shirt. He took a second, longer look. He looked just like his father. As he stared into the mirror, memories of the previous night flooded his mind. With a cry of anger, he struck his mirror with all his might, instantly shattering it into a million pieces. Droplets of warm blood trickled from his fist and landed on his floor. He lifted his fist and examined it. Shards of sharp glass were sticking out of it. He pulled out the pieces one by one, and then washed his hand in warm water. He held up his hand again and watched as the punctures closed up. The Yandame was his father. His father had been the Hokage, the strongest man in the entire village. And the village still existed only because of his sacrifice. His hands tightened into fists. He wouldn't let his parents' sacrifice go in vain. He would do what they had wanted him to do. He would be a shinobi greater than either of them. He would do it for them, not because he loved this village. Not because he wanted to prove himself to others. He would do it because he could not let his parents' sacrifice be in vain. And the first thing he needed to do was get a new mirror. He closed his eyes and landed in his inner world. He walked right up to the prison within him and stared up at the Kyuubi. I'll make you a deal. What kind of deal? You help me become Hokage. In return, I'll study up about this seal. When I figure it out, I'll open it and let you go. The Kyuubi leaned down and held his head at Naruto's level. Hot breath escaped his maw and hit Naruto's face. You would do that for me? Naruto shrugged. Why? I killed your parents. I tried to destroy your village. Yes. You did. But I don't blame you. My parents. They were treating you just how the village treats me. You were angry at the ones imprisoning you against your will for no fault of your own. They were trying to imprison you again. I understand you. I've had to bear this hatred for just 4 years. You've been shunned this way for God knows how many years now. But why? Why trust me now? Why trust me now when no one has done so before? You could have killed me yesterday. You didn't. I guess I owe you one. Plus, you showed me the truth yesterday. You didn't hide that you killed my parents. You gave me my parents' final words to me, he said, holding his fist against his heart. That means a lot to me. The Kyuubi was silent. It's not that straightforward. Your chakra coils has developed around my presence. If you let me go, you will definitely die. You cannot break open the seal. You will have to unlock it the way it was designed. Naruto stared at the Kyuubi and silently held out his fist. If that's what it takes, then I'll do it. It's not like I have anyone to live for anyway. Partners? He asked. The Kyuubi stared at the offered fist for a long while before pushing his own fist through the bars. Yes. Partners. For now. The Kyuubi pressed his fist against Naruto's. You break the deal and I'll kill myself. Take you down with me. Another hot breath escaped the Kyuubi as he growled softly. I keep to my words, boy. Naruto nodded. Don't forget that your death will not kill me. If you prefer the sewer, then I'm sure it must be bad enough. So, you got a name, or do I have to keep calling you the QB? An expression of surprise flitted onto the QB's face. What makes you think I have a name, boy? Naruto shrugged. Nothing. Just thought I should ask you your name considering that we just became partners. The QB stared at the boy standing in front of him for a long while. You're a strange one, Naruto Uzumaki. Unlike any human I have met before. Yes, I do have a name. Kurama, I see. That's good to know. Well then, Kurama-san, I'm off. See you around. Naruto opened his eyes and returned to his bathroom. Chapter 2, Training Begins. Training begins. The next morning, the librarian shot a look of utter distaste at him as he entered what she considered to be her domain. He ignored her. As long as she confined herself to looks, she wouldn't be able to get through to him. He hadn't let it bother him yesterday. He wouldn't let it bother him today. Hidden villages took pride in their secrets, and went to immense lengths to ensure that they remained secret. Hence, the Konoha library was split into multiple sections: the public section, the Genin section, the Chunin section, and the Jounin section. While one would not be able to find instructions for jutsus in the library, it contained many generic texts for every possible field of interest for a shinobi. Under the eye of the Sandaime, the library had grown so large that it now occupied a building of its own. The ground floor was open to all and was maintained by a civilian staff. From the first floor and above, the library was sealed off and heavily guarded, with access granted to only those who possessed the Konoha Hittite and the requisite rank. On his first visit to the library, Naruto had managed to find the aisle which catered to academy students. He had then focused only on books catering to the history of shinobi. This time he broadened his search. A while later, he returned to the librarian with books pertaining to ninjutsu, chakra control and stealth. I would like to issue these, please. An oily smile blossomed on the woman's face as she inspected the titles. I'm sorry, but you cannot take these books out of the library. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He didn't like where the conversation was heading. What do you mean? This is the public section, isn't it? Yes, but these books are about the shinobi arts. You need an adult guardian to issue books regarding the shinobi arts. You've got to be kidding me. You made up that rule just now. The woman didn't rise to his taunt. I did not make the rules. Do you want to talk to my manager? His office is upstairs and he'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. If the manager had his office upstairs, it meant that he was a shinobi. With a deep breath, he bottled away the anger growing within him. No, it's okay, said Naruto as he took back the tomes. I'll put these back where I found them. Thank you for your time. Turning sharply, he headed for the reading section. He guessed that he was going to be spending a lot of time there. 1 month later, Naruto sat in the middle of his room poring at a scroll lying in front of him. The floor all around him was littered with dozens of scrolls. Given that he couldn't bring books home, he had taken to making his own notes. Something which had turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He found that his mind retained things much more easily if he wrote it down. The scroll he was staring at was a list. A to-do list. A list he had created after many hours in the reading room of the library. He had started off with the academy textbooks. And it had proven gold. He had devoured through them like a hungry wolf does its prey. Once he was done, he had a broad outline of all the basic abilities he needed. There were a wide variety of skills a shinobi could specialize in. But there were a few essential skills which all shinobi required to survive in the field. Theoretical knowledge, physical strength and endurance, taijutsu, chakra control, ninjutsu, dispelling genjutsu, proficiency with projectile weapons, stealth, survival skills, first aid skills, teamwork and tactical thinking. Mastery of these fields was absolutely essential for promotion to Chunin. Most genin were given a working knowledge by the academy, and were then whipped into shape by their Jounin sensei. He however was aiming much higher. He was aiming to master the list before he joined the academy. Once he joined the academy, he would be competing with children from the various clans of the village. Given the intensive training they received on a day-to-day basis, he would be extremely hard-pressed to keep up. He needed a training regimen. And a strict one at that. The academy textbooks outlined the basic aspects of all the fields he wanted to master. That would have to be his starting point. The problem for him were fields like taijutsu and stealth. These were techniques one could not learn from a book. They required hands-on practice and a guiding hand. With that in mind, he had pushed them down the pecking order. Physical training in the mornings, theoretical knowledge in the library in the afternoons, chakra control and ninjutsu training at nights. That was going to be his regimen for the coming few years. He grinned and shivered in excitement. This was going to be fun. He'd never had fun before. He was looking forward to it. The other stumbling block was Fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu was an extremely arcane and niche field of shinobi arts. Most of the texts he had read had vaguely mentioned Fuinjutsu in passing, but try as he might, he could not find a single book which focused on it. At least not in the public section. He would somehow need access to the Chunin or the Jounin sections. Hoodwinking shinobi guards was something he was light years away from. With a sigh, he consigned it to the future as well. 3 weeks later, it was nighttime and Naruto Uzumaki leaned panting against the trunk of a tree. He was currently in a clearing in the forest, which surrounded the village. A large number of leaves lay scattered around him. he was training his chakra control. Chakra was the resulting energy formed due to the mixing of physical energy and spiritual energy. The physical energy was collected from the body's cells and could be increased by improving one's physical endurance and strength. Spiritual energy was derived from the mind's consciousness and could be increased by meditation and through experience. Every living being innately created a small amount of chakra and let it flow through their body's chakra regulatory system. Shinobi, on the other hand, could, by training, mold additional amounts of chakra by forcibly mixing their physical and spiritual energies. The additional chakra flowing through the chakra network could be released through the many tenkatsu located on their bodies to perform ninjutsu and other similar techniques. In time and with experience, the amount of chakra flowing innately through a shinobi's chakra network increases, and it could be used to make a rough estimate of the total chakra possessed by the shinobi. The Academy network had outlined leaf concentration, tree climbing and water walking as the basic chakra control exercises. After 2 weeks of consistent effort, Naruto had finally managed to successfully complete the first exercise. The task had been to stick a leaf to his forehead with the help of chakra. It was an extremely simple technique which most shinobi could perform even in their sleep. For a 4-year-old boy who had never molded chakra before, it had been a Herculean task at first. Just molding chakra successfully had taken him about a week. Focusing the molded chakra to the tenketsu on his palm so as to release it had eaten away another week. Modulating the amount of chakra he used had taken away the rest of the time. If he used too less, then the leaf fell away when he flipped his palm. If he used too much, the leaf folded unto itself and disintegrated spontaneously. Raising an exhausted arm, he wiped the sweat off his face with his sleeve. With a sigh of exhaustion, he closed his eyes and let his arm fall. He took deep breaths and waited for the tremors of exhaustion to subside. From what he had read, he believed that he had a mild case of chakra exhaustion. He wouldn't be moving for a couple of hours. In a few minutes, however, he felt the strength return to his body and his eyes snapped open in shock. The book had categorically stated that the symptoms of mild chakra exhaustion lasted for a minimum of 2 hours. He opened his mind to his new partner. The book I read said that mild chakra exhaustion lasted for a couple of hours and that I would not be able to move until it passed. It's hardly been 10 minutes and I feel better already. Yes. That is because of my chakra. Your chakra? Yes. The 8 trigam seal which the Yondaime used on me innately steals a tiny bit of my chakra and channels it into your chakra network. My chakra is much more potent and powerful than you humans. It is what gives you your accelerated healing and your stamina. You mean other people don't heal this fast? No. You humans have a pathetically slow rate of healing. Takes weeks and even months sometimes. I see. I did not know that. Naruto silently contemplated the words of Kurama for a while. Cut it off. What? Cut it off. That bit of chakra you give me. Cut it off. If I may ask why? I need to build up my skills on my own. I can't rely on your power completely. Why not? Using my chakra, you'll easily become one of the most powerful shinobi in this village. Yes. That's true. I'll be able to become Hokage. And then what? Like we agreed, I'll be releasing you once I figure out this seal. What then? No. I have to be self-reliant. I see. As you wish. Thank you, Kurama-san, said Naruto as he sat up. This tiny bit of chakra you mentioned. Is that all you can give me? No. I don't think so. This seal of yours is, how do I put it? Let's say that it is slightly open. I think I can give you much more. Be warned, however, my chakra is nothing like yours. What do you mean? My chakra is much more potent and powerful than yours. You cannot utilize it for minor tasks like sticking things to your body. It is not meant for techniques which require fine chakra control. I see. Give me some of your chakra now. I want to see if I can control it like I control my own chakra. Are you sure that's a good idea? There is a man who is watching you right now. We do not know how he will react to my chakra. There's someone watching me? Yes. There are 2 of them. They alternate with each other and keep guard on you at all times. And why didn't you tell me this before? He asked hotly. I am not one to initiate conversations unless it is extremely important. Given that the man seemed to be your protector, I didn't deem it to be of urgency. I see. For future reference, I would like to be told about things like this right away, said Naruto, a tad stiffly. I'll make a point of it. Thank you, said Naruto and lapsed into a thoughtful silence. You said that you sensed him, said Naruto after a while. What exactly did you mean by that? I am able to sense the chakra and negative emotions of those around me. Negative emotions? I am attuned to anger, hatred, vengeance, and similar states of mind. Why? My creator created me as an embodiment of anger and hatred. Why he did so is an answer only he knows. Creator? That is a story for some other time. I see. And what is your range? Given that I am stuck in this cage of yours, my sensing range has been severely curtailed. I would say a few hundred feet at most. I see. That's going to be extremely useful, muttered Naruto softly. The next day, Naruto's eyes flicked open just as his alarm was about to go off. In a flash, he disabled it before it could let loose its jarring tone. He had been waking up early every morning to work on his physical training. After 2 weeks, his body had gotten used to the sleep cycle and had woken up of its own accord. With a grumble, he sat up and rolled off the bed. It was still dark outside. The sun hadn't even risen yet. He cursed his past self for forcing him to get up at this ungodly hour. With another curse, he got up and started to get ready. His ablutions done, he left his house via his window and made his way to the village gate. He stretched the different muscles of his body as he walked. He reached the gate and stretched a bit more. He was going to do 10 laps of the village and finish off his routine with 100 repetitions of squats, sit-ups, push-ups and pull-ups each. His plan was to increase it to 25 laps and 500 repetitions at the end of the first month. He hoped to be able to do 50 laps and 1,000 repetitions by the beginning of the third month. From what he had read, this regimen seemed to be the basic muscle and endurance building regimen most shinobi used when they got started. So far, it had been extremely grueling, but he was pleased with his progress. His time was improving day by day, and he could perceive the improvements to his stamina. He nodded at Izumo and Kotetsu, the gate guards, as he began his first lap. He had established a decent rapport with the laid-back duo who seemed to be consistently assigned gate duty. He was on his third lap when a man wearing a green full-body spandex suit materialized out of thin air to his right. "Yash!" he shouted as ran alongside Naruto. "It is not often that I meet somebody else up so early in the morning. Pray tell me what you are doing here." "Training to improve my speed and endurance." "Why?" "Because I want to become a shinobi, Yash. The flames of youth burn brightly within you." "Good luck," said the man with a thumbs up and a blinding smile. Naruto watched blankly as the man disappeared into the distance in a cloud of dust. In short order, Naruto completed his designated laps and collapsed against the gates in exhaustion and irritation. Being lapped 11 times per lap by a man wearing a green jumpsuit was really pissing off. It happened again the next day. And the day after that. On the fourth day, the man ran backwards and was still managing to lap him at the same rate. On the fifth day, he outpaced him again whilst running on his hands. That man is infuriating as hell. If he beats me while running backwards on his hands, I'll kill myself. How the hell is he that fast? Is he even human? It just means that you are dead slow. Thanks for your vote of confidence. Stop complaining then and get faster. I know. I won't stop until I'm faster than that guy. But even after a month, the gap between them was as vast as ever. 1 month later, Naruto was sitting exhausted by the gate, having done his quota of laps, when the man in the green jumpsuit materialized before him. "Yash! I was right when I first met you. The flames of youth do burn brightly within you. You have the guts to never give up. You have been trying to beat me for a month now, but you never gave up even though you failed every day. I commend your sincerity," the man shouted, his teeth blinding Naruto. Naruto glared up at him. "How do you know that I have been trying to beat you?" "Because every time I surge past you, your eyes burn with the flames of rivalry and youth. I would know that look anywhere. I'm sure that I have a similar look in my own eyes when I gaze upon my very own eternal rival. How the hell are you that fast?" "Because of my youth," he replied as if it answered his question. "I have been training like this for many years. A fledgling such as yourself has no hope of defeating me. You must follow a strict and arduous training regimen for you to have any hope of doing so. I do have a training regimen. What are you going to do next?" Naruto told him. "Yash," he shouted. "That is commendable but pointless. You will never be able to match me, Hokage the fabulous green beast of Konoha, by following the basic endurance building regimen. No worries. I have seen your youth and I respect it. Hence, I swear that I will make you faster than myself, or else I will climb the Hokage mountain 500 times using just my index fingers," he shouted, jotting down something into a notebook he pulled out. Where the jumpsuit had its pockets, Naruto had no clue, and neither did he want to find out. "Works for me," said Naruto with a dazed expression on his face. This guy was too much to handle so early in the morning. "Yash. Follow me. I have some extra body weights at home which you can use." "Body weights?" asked Naruto in confusion. Naruto cursed his luck. The man had strapped so many weights onto him that he could barely move. "This, my dear friend, is the fastest way to build up your musculature and endurance. Given how young you are, if you are able to successfully complete this training, then you will reap immense benefits. You must not remove these weights at any time. In time, you will be able to move normally. When we reach that stage, it will be time to increase your weights. If we progress forwards using this technique, you will have unparalleled body speed quite soon." Naruto mentally groaned at the thought of additional weights. "That is not all, my dear student. Simply strapping these weights onto your body is not sufficient. You must follow a strict regimen that strains every muscle of your body so as to ensure an even development of all your muscles. Lopsided or imbalanced development is the bane of every shinobi." Naruto nodded. "I will assist you in developing this regimen. You must also begin training your taijutsu so that developing muscles get acclimatized to the movements of your body. I will also assist you in this. Any questions?" "Yes." "Why are you doing this for me?" "Why?" "Because the flames of youth burn brightly within you and it is my responsibility to nurture it." Naruto sighed. He was not going to get a straight answer out of this guy anytime soon. 2 months later, Naruto lay bruised and exhausted in the middle of the training ground. He simply did not have the energy to move a muscle. Guy's routine was killing him, and that was the plain truth. It was a struggle just to complete the laps around Konoha. A Herculean struggle. But Guy never left it at that. Guy took him to his apartment where he had set up a miniature gym. Naruto was forced to do a series of grueling exercises which taxed all the muscles of the body. And then came taijutsu. And that was even worse. Guy's method of instruction was unorthodox at best. He showed Naruto the basic taijutsu stances and the first level of katas which came associated with them. He gave Naruto an hour to get acclimatized with the forms and the movements, and then he began beating on him. And thus began the cycle of beatdowns. They would spar for about 10 minutes during which Naruto would be battered in all ways possible. He would then be given a short break in which all his mistakes were pointed out. And then they began all over again. His body was under so much stress lately that he was finding it almost impossible to focus on his other pursuits. Sensei, called Naruto from his prone position. Yes? Replied Guy as he continued his last set of push-ups. Why do you train so hard? What do you mean? You've already made jounin. You don't need to work this hard just to maintain your skills. Why do you do it? Guy continued his push-ups for a while. With an almost inaudible groan, he eased out and sat down. I have many reasons, he said softly, causing Naruto to sit up in a hurry. This was the first time he was getting to see Guy's serious side and he didn't want to miss it. The man hid it quite well, but Naruto was sure that he was highly intelligent. The main one being to protect this village. This village is my home and I'll do anything to protect it. And to do that I have to be stronger. And to get stronger, I need to train. I see, nodded Naruto. You said you had many reasons? Yes. There is one who I consider to be my rival. While he may not be as fast or strong as I am, he is highly intelligent, and he uses that to win his battles. I strive to be stronger than him, and I hope that he does the same. What's his name? Hatake Kakashi. He is a jounin like me. Naruto nodded, though he had never heard of the man. There is one more reason, said Guy almost imperceptibly after a long pause. I don't know how to do anything else. With a grunt, Guy got up and turned towards the village. Try not to emulate that part of me, he said softly. 1 week later, Naruto cursed under his breath. This was the third shop he had been turned away from. How was he going to buy a pair of swords if the guys selling them refused to cater to him? The reason for buying swords was simple. Given his size and build, he would face a heavy disadvantage in terms of range and power if he ever faced down an adult opponent, something which his spars with Guy made painfully obvious. It had been Guy's suggestion that he should specialize in a weapon to overcome that disadvantage, and Naruto had agreed. He had toyed with multiple weapons before settling on katanas. Kenjutsu was simple, straightforward and deadly, a concept which resonated with the way Naruto wanted to fight. Guy considered himself to be an aficionado for the various forms and styles of taijutsu, and its variants, and collected information regarding them in his free time. As such, he had many scrolls on Kenjutsu in his collection which he offered for Naruto's inspection. It was after going through these scrolls that Naruto had decided upon a two-sword style. This style was rarer than a single-sword style, and hence he had more chances of gaining an advantage over enemies who hadn't faced similar opponents before. Guy also claimed to be reasonably proficient in the utilization of blades and promised to assist as much as he could. Now all he needed to do was to buy two swords. And that's where he had hit a dead end. He had been turned away by the 3 weapon shops he had visited. A bell tinkled as he entered the next shop. If this shop thwarted him as well, he would need Guy's help. A girl of his age emerged from a door at the back and looked askance at him. She was wearing a yukata and had her hair done up in 2 buns. What do you want? Are you lost or something? No. I need to buy some weapons. Don't joke around, kid. Get out of here before my dad comes. Don't call me kid, said Naruto hotly. You're just barely older than me yourself. And I do want to buy weapons. Look, I even have money, he said, holding up his coin purse. Where are your parents? Don't have any. The girl looked at him with an odd expression and then turned around. Wait here. I'll get my dad. Don't touch anything, she called. She disappeared through the door and reappeared in a few minutes with a hulking giant of a man. My daughter says that you want to make a purchase, he stated gruffly. Yes. I would like to buy a standard set of shuriken and kunai, said Naruto, craning his neck to look up at the man. I also need 2 katanas. Do you have any for my height? The man rummaged beneath the counter for a second and placed 2 small boxes on the table. Here you go. As for the swords, I do have some of your size but not too many. You won't have much a choice. I don't mind. Let me see them. Tenten, go fetch the swords. The girl brought out a large box from the back room. Naruto opened it and started inspecting the balance of the swords one by one. Guy had told him how to test the balance of a sword and decide whether it suited his build or not. The man leaned down and picked one out. Try this, he said gruffly. Naruto took the proffered blade and instantly knew it was the right one for him. It felt like an extension of his arm. This is perfect. You have another one like this? He asked hopefully. The man rummaged about in the box and eventually pulled out a twin blade. Thanks. This is brilliant. How much? Asked Naruto, taking a couple of practice swings. In short order, Naruto paid for them and made to leave the shop. He was just leaving when the girl cried out. Hey, he turned around. If you ever need somebody to spar with those swords, then I'll be glad to help. Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm Naruto, by the way. I'm Tenten, she smiled. Thanks again and see you around. He left the shop grinning like a fox. He was completely broke but extremely happy. 2 months later, Hiruzen Sarutobi was sitting on his office, smoking his pipe and trying to catch up with his paperwork when his secretary burst in. "Hokage-sama, Ferret is here to see you." "He says it's urgent," she cried. "Send him in." She nodded and left in a brisk walk. Sarutobi nodded as the Anbu operative codenamed Ferret walked in. The Anbu took her position and bowed low. "There seems to have been a break-in into your private library, Hokage-sama." Impassive as always, Sarutobi pulled out his pipe and asked, "Are you sure? How did they get past the barriers?" "We don't know, sir. The barriers are still active and haven't been punctured." "Sightings?" "None." "Scent?" "Pepper trail." The Inuzuka Niken were quite agitated. "Were the guards incapacitated?" "No, Hokage-sama. What has been stolen?" "We believe nothing. We're still in the process of cross-checking all the catalogs, but that's what the initial estimates seem to indicate." "Nothing?" "Nothing. If no one saw him or sensed him and nothing was taken, how do we even know that there was a break-in?" "Well, the perpetrator left behind a note saying I was here." "Have you had that analyzed?" "Written with his inferior hand. Very shaky." "Ran it for matches and records." "Nothing. The paper and pen used are both easily available everywhere." We don't know how he got past the barriers?" Ferret shook her head. "Well then, nothing else can be done except to improve our defenses. Inform the clans about this. The perpetrator might strike again." "Hi. Hokage-sama. The perpetrator must have very skilled to have managed it, but why leave that note? Why bring attention to his escapades?" Sarutobi didn't know. "The previous night." "You sure are lucky that you have me around. You would never have managed this otherwise." I know. I already thanked you." "Stop showing off." "I was not showing off. I was just reminding you of my contribution." Yeah. I know. I owe you one." "I got it. Now shut up and keep sensing. Be polite or I might even let you get caught." "If I get caught, I'm screwed," muttered Naruto as he lurked in the shadows, waiting for the patrolling guards to walk past his position. "Calm down. You have me. It's highly unlikely that you'll get caught at his stage. Doesn't hurt to be careful." "He is called the professor for a reason," said Naruto as the patrolling Chunin walked by. Putting on a burst of speed, Naruto ran forwards. He had abandoned his training weights for this excursions, and his body felt amazingly light and fast. "Where's the access point?" "Third door to the left." The Hokage's library was housed in the basement of the Hokage building, created by the Shodaime Hokage. It was used to store forbidden books and techniques along with other materials which the reigning Hokage felt is unsuitable for public consumption. The library was guarded by a number of roving guards running in random patrols and an ANBU level barrier with a single access point. An access point whose location even the Chunin guards were not aware of. An access point which Kurama could sense. All barriers require chakra to remain active. However, ordinary sensory ninja cannot sense the chakra flowing through the barrier. Only extremely talented sensors are able to sense and locate barriers. Kurama was no ordinary sensor. Kurama could even sense negative emotions, something which almost no human sensor could do. For someone of his level of proficiency, detecting barriers was child's play. And by detecting the break in the flow of chakra, he could detect the entry point. Naruto padded down the corridor silently and entered the room before the next patrol arrived. The sheer number of books and scrolls amazed him. It wasn't a private collection, it was a private library of sorts. He started to inspect the shelves. He was here for books on Fuinjutsu. As he methodically scoured the shelves, his eyes locked onto a dusty tome titled A Basic Treatise on Fuinjutsu by Uzumaki Mito. Must be someone from his clan. He had traced his lineage to an extinguished clan from a now-defunct village in the land of whirlpools. He pulled out the tome and slipped it into his pack. As he walked back towards the entrance, his eyes fell upon a shelf marked Forbidden. The shelf was populated sparsely with around half a dozen scrolls. His curiosity overpowering him, he jogged over to the shelf and picked out a scroll. Most of the techniques in the scrolls were S-rank ninjutsu. Fuinjutsu and space-time techniques he had no hope of learning at his current skill levels. He did however come across 2 techniques he could learn. Pulling an empty scroll put of his pack, he quickly jotted down the descriptions and instructions to both. Erasing all traces of his intrusion, Naruto slipped out of the room but not before leaving a note saying I was here. I don't see why you insisted on doing that. They will search for you tomorrow and they might even find you. Nah, I'm helping them. If a kid like me can get in, then they need to improve security. Now help me get out of here. Oi, what do you mean a kid like you? You only managed this thanks to my awesome sensing skills. For the last time, I am grateful for your help. Now let's get out of here. I have no intention of getting caught. The next morning, Naruto sat at his table and reread the descriptions for the 2 techniques he had been able to find. First was the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It was a variation of the Bunshin Jutsu created by the Nidaime Hokage that allowed the user to create solid copies of himself. The user's chakra was evenly distributed amongst every clone, allowing the clones to perform jutsus on their own. The clones will disperse on being killed or could be dispelled by the user themselves. On dispelling, the clones transferred all the experiences they gained to the user and other active clones. The jutsu itself was not forbidden. What was forbidden was the creation of more than 2 clones. If the user created 2 Mei clones, there was a high chance of severe chakra exhaustion and subsequent death. Variations of this technique included Bunshin Daibakuha and Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Second was the Shunshin no Jutsu. This technique was a high-speed movement technique, allowing a ninja to move short to long distances at an almost untraceable speed. The amount of chakra utilized depended upon the speed and the distance traveled. With practice, the speed of this technique and its effectiveness could be drastically improved. This technique was usually accompanied with a puff of smoke or some other element to mask the movement. While the standard form of the technique is used quite commonly by all ranks of shinobi, the variation which uses no masking element is forbidden due to the high chances of chakra exhaustion if used multiple times in quick succession. Naruto had finally mastered water walking just before he had attempted his night excursion to the Hokage's library. It was time to begin mastering the other academy ninjutsu. "Oi, Kurama-san," Naruto called. "What do you want?" "I just went off to sleep." "This better be good. I wanted to ask you if you think it is possible to do jutsus without hand signs?" "It should be. As far I can see, you humans use hand signs to help mold your chakra in the right way. With enough practice, I presume that you should be able to skip them and mold it on your own." "That's what I thought," muttered Naruto thoughtfully. "You go back to your sleep now." Bah. 2 months later, Naruto slipped into his bathroom fully dressed. Making a hand sign, he created a Kage Bunshin. That done, he transformed himself into a rat using the Henge Jutsu. His clone bent down and gathered him up in his palms. Opening the small window in his bathroom, his clone placed him on the pipe running just below the window. With a nod of thanks, Naruto scurried off. He ran down the pipe and made his way through the back alleys of Konoha. Hiding behind a dumpster, quite a few blocks away from his flat, he opened his mind to his partner. "Is he still following me?" "No. He is still guarding your flat." Performing another henge, Naruto transformed into a boy of his age with a round face and brown hair. Sticking to thoroughfares, he made his way out of the village. He dropped the disguise once he was out of the village and took to the trees. He ran hard and in short order. He was once again in the clearing where he had learned how to climb trees and practice leaf concentration. He had adopted the clearing as his personal training ground of sorts. This was the practice he had been adopting to lose his tail ever since he had discovered that the Anbu kept a guard on him. He had no intention of showing them his ninjutsu training. They, most definitely, reported directly to the old man. He had been extremely surprised the first time he had attempted to lose his tail, and the ploy had actually worked. From what he knew, the Anbu were high-level shinobi, and should easily be able to read through the tricks someone of his level may employ. "Kurama-san, give me your chakra. There's no one anywhere near us. Nobody from the village should be able to sense it at this distance. Here you go. Be wise how you use it." Naruto gasped in shock as Kurama's powerful chakra rushed into him. He watched as his prune nails transformed into claws. He couldn't see it, but his whiskers had grown more pronounced, and his pupils had transformed into vertical slits. It felt as if a fire was raging through his chakra network. He wasn't sure if he could control this raging chakra. He definitely couldn't use it for jutsus which required precise control and tiny amounts of chakra. He had to do something powerful. Concentrating the chakra on his right leg, he lifted it and stomped down. The ground literally collapsed under him from the force of the attack. He jumped back and landed a few feet away. The dust cleared away and revealed the crater he had created with his attack. He would never be able to match that, no matter how much of his own chakra he used. He grinned. This chakra would be perfect when he needed to get out of sticky situations. "Is this the limit of the amount of chakra you can give me?" "No. I can give some more." We'll have to try that out someday." 8 months later, Naruto and Guy were doing push-ups at a ferocious rate in Training Ground 27. 998999100. "That's enough for today, Naruto-kun," said Guy, as he stood up. Naruto, however, lay panting pathetically at his feet. How Guy managed to do their entire routine with even breaking a sweat was beyond him. The man was a fucking monster. The noonday sun was shining directly into Naruto's eyes, but he was too tired to move. "Come on. Let's go eat something, Naruto-kun. We have been at it since 4:30. "You say that as if we haven't been doing it every day for the past 8 months, groaned Naruto as he slowly got up and stretched. "You're growing more sarcastic day by day. That's not necessarily a good thing. By the way, I won't be able to come for a week." "Why? You have a mission again?" "Yeah. A team of genin got killed in the Forest of Death during the Chunin exams. I have been tasked with returning them back to their village." "Forest of Death? What's that?" "You don't know? That's the restricted training ground 44. Although why it's called a training ground I don't know. It's filled with all kinds of giant beasts and poisonous plants. It's a very dangerous place. I could even think of a few jounin who wouldn't be able to survive the place." "Then why the hell do you send genins in there?" "The genins have to avoid all the dangers and get to the central tower. That in itself is not too difficult. That's doable. Most of the animals leave you alone if you don't bother them. What I meant earlier was that even jounins would be hard-pressed to survive if they took the beast head-on. That is, of course, assuming the fact that they don't resort to ninjutsu." Naruto was excited. Very excited. This sounded like the perfect place to test out his swordsmanship. The fastest way to improve was to survive a life or death situation. He would definitely face that in the forest of death, if it was anything like what Guy-sensei said it was. His face split into a devious grin. Or why are you smiling like that, Naruto-kun? I don't like it. You aren't thinking of going into the forest of death, are you? I forbid it. Naruto schooled his features into an innocent look. Thank God Guy-sensei was so gullible. No. Of course not. I'm not stupid, you know, thank God. Let's go eat something. It's past noon and I'm starving. They both set off for the village. You know, Naruto-kun, to become a shinobi you need more than just strength and speed. Of course, you have been training taijutsu, but you need to learn ninjutsu as well. I am willing to teach you those as well, if you want. I train more after I'm done with you, you know. What? You train more after our morning workout? That much workload is simply too much for a boy like you. You'll damage your body. Nah. I'm fine. I have lots of stamina. Thanks for offering to teach me anyway. I'm grateful. Now let's go faster. I'm hungry and Ichiraku is waiting. Guy twitched as the boy raced off. With a shake of his head, he took after the boy. Yash! I will not lose to you in a race yet, Naruto-kun. I am still youthful. Yash! That night, Naruto crept towards the forest of death, dodging the 4 Chunin guards stationed there. It was surrounded by a really tall fence, tall enough that he couldn't jump over it normally. It must be electrocuted if it kept all the animals in. There were no trees near the fence to use as a boost to clear the fence. He had no choice then. He forced a lot of chakra to his feet and jumped. He just managed to clear the top. He landed on the other side and rolled a couple of times to deaden the impact. He was up in a flash with both his swords drawn and ready. There seemed to be no sign of life anywhere near him. Kurama-san, wake up. If this place is as dangerous as Guy-sensei says it is, then I'll need your help. You shouldn't have come here if it is that dangerous. I need to get better. That doesn't mean that you literally go looking for trouble. Well, now that I'm already here, it won't hurt to have a look around. This looks like the perfect place to train my stealth. Naruto held his sword as steady as he could as he slowly backed away from the gigantic lynx perched on the same branch as he was. The lynx had appeared out of thin air during his exploration of the forest. He hadn't felt an iota of its presence before it had landed lightly on the branch he was running along. Running to the side was not an option. From the way it moved, it was clearly better than him at navigating through the trees. Jumping down was not an option as well. The lynx would launch itself at him before he landed. Waiting for it to attack was also out of the question. Even if he managed to skewer it while it charged, momentum would ensure that the lynx's attack would hit him. Unless he managed to land a killing blow with his first stab, and that was something he wasn't backing himself on. Plus, it seemed a shame to kill such a magnificent beast. He cursed silently when his back hit the tree trunk. There was now no more room to maneuver. With a snarl of triumph, the lynx lunged. In a flash, Naruto flipped the blade and swung with all the might he could muster. The flat of the blade caught the lynx's head and knocked the charge slightly askew. At the same instant, Naruto himself jumped in the opposite direction. He flipped in the air and landed on the adjoining tree with his feet. Sticking to the wood with chakra, he ran up vertically to the next level of foliage. Jumping onto a branch, he ran pell-mell through the forest to get away while the lynx was still disoriented. He landed in a clearing a reasonably safe distance away to catch his breath. With adrenaline rushing through his veins, he leaned against the tree, closed his eyes and began to take deep breaths. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Naruto's eyes snapped open in an instant, and then widened in alarm in the next. He was surrounded by giant spiders. Glancing up, he saw that they were everywhere, on the branches. Sticking vertically to trees, he must have run right into their nest. With a curse, he drew one of his swords and held it up. With the other, he formed a hand sign, Taiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Dozens of Narutos popped into existence all around him and burst away with loud shouts. The appearance of multiple new enemies confused the spider colony. Utilizing their distraction, Naruto forced chakra to his feet and burst through them with a cry of triumph. No, you fool. The other way. You're going deep. Naruto lost the rest of Kurama's warning as he ducked to avoid a face full of foul-smelling and smoking poison shot at him by a spider. He was more surrounded than ever as he ran. The spiders had the numbers to flank all of his clones, and the speed to keep with him. They scurried along the treetops and the ground at a speed which easily matched his. Don't you get it? They're using chakra as well. And you're running deeper into their nest. Give me your chakra then. Now's the time. With a deep, feral growl, Naruto put on a huge amount of speed and left his pursuers behind. 2 months later, Naruto took a deep breath as he scaled the fence bordering the forest of death. After 2 months of nightly trysts into the forest, he was finally ready to fly solo. Kurama-san, no sensing for you today. You sure? You've never been able to sense those leeches until it's way too late. I've got it covered, replied Naruto calmly as he made a hand sign and created 6 Kage Bunshins. Spread out. You know what to do. It had taken Naruto quite a while to discover the different uses of his Kage Bunshin. The fact that he took no damage on their deaths and the retrieval of their experiences was extremely useful. Tonight, he was going to use them for scouting and recon. With a shunshin, he jumped into the trees and headed towards the center of the forest. His clones dispersed and formed a perimeter with a radius of 100 feet around him. His goal was to reach the tower without resorting to combat or meeting any of the forest's deadly inhabitants. If he approached anything dangerous, his clones would let him know. 3 months later, Naruto jumped backwards off a branch and dodged a giant spider lunging at him. He landed on the ground and drew one of his swords as the spider launched itself at him off the branch. He waited until it was almost upon him before he slashed. His stroke cleaved the spider completely into two. Panting, he sheathed his sword and started limping away. Never attack a spider nest again unless he wanted to die, he noted. He should have known better. Especially after the previous incident with the spiders. As he moved, he looked around trying to get his bearings. Realizing that he was very near Gate 23, he made his way towards it stealthily. Hoping not to encounter any more of the beasts he may have enraged with his nightly trysts into the forest. His forays into the forest were limited to the periods when Guy was away on his missions. If the man even received an inkling of the things Naruto was up to, he was sure he would be shut down. He reached the gate without incident, and turned towards the village. He had only gone a few steps when he sensed the presence near him. He jumped just as 3 kunai struck the spot he had been an instant ago. Twisting in the air, he threw a couple of his own kunai in the direction of the attacker. He saw a short woman with violet hair wearing a large overcoat dodge them by jumping backwards onto a branch. Just as his foot touched the ground, he disappeared in a shunshin. He appeared behind the woman with his sword drawn. He aimed for her neck with the flat of his blade intending to knock her out. Instead, the woman blocked his blade with ease and countered with a punch to his stomach. That was new. Most of the animals weren't fast enough to keep up with his speed, let alone counter him. However, this woman had managed to counter even his shunshin. He flew backwards, hit a tree and landed heavily on the ground. He was up instantly. Months in the forest had taught him that if he stayed down to catch his breath, he would be dead. He looked up at the woman and smiled. This was going to be fun. He was just about to make his next move when the woman began talking with a smirk. "You're really good, kid. Are you the one who has been running about in the forest and making all the animals angry?" Naruto held his swords up in a defensive stance. The woman was wearing a Konoha headband. She wasn't an enemy then, and he could get into trouble if he attacked a comrade. He decided to reply, but he didn't let his guard down. "Yeah, nice work, kid. Most people don't have the guts and more importantly the skills to do that." He waited for her to continue. Her smirk widened. She started walking towards the village. "Relax. I'm not going to kill you. Come on, let's get back to the village." He sheathed his swords and joined her but remained wary. "Good. You still haven't let your guard down. You don't blindly trust people." "I like that," she said, glancing sideways at him. Naruto remained silent. "Oi, brat. Don't you have a tongue? I have no clue what to say to you. What am I supposed to say to a random stranger who attacks me out of the blue? You could start with your name, I suppose." "I'm Anko. I'm Naruto Uzumaki." Her eyes widened slightly when she heard his name. She definitely knew who he was. Glares and unfriendly looks were directed at them as they walked through the village. The villagers seemed to be including her as well with their looks, something which Naruto found unfair. It was he they had their beef with. Why victimize someone just because they were associating with someone they found unsuitable? Did their hatred for him run that deep? "Sorry about this," he said out of the corner of his mouth. "For what?" she asked. "This," he said, waving an arm at the people around them. "I didn't mean to include you. Didn't think they would go this far." Anko didn't respond, but she leveled a strange look at him. "Ha! You're funny, kid. You're not the only one despised by these idiots." Her answer surprised Naruto. The distinct show of anger, hate and unfriendliness which the villagers were displaying was one which they restricted to himself. To this day, he had not seen them behave that way with anybody else. He was quite sure of that. Why did the villagers hate her? Was she a Jinchuriki like him, or did she happen to have a similar past to his? A past which the villagers were quite happy to misinterpret and judge. He got no answers because she stopped in front of a building and stretched lightly. "This is me. See ya." "Hey," he called. "What?" She snapped from her doorway. "Spar with me? What? No. Oh. Come on. Please, what do I get out of it?" "Company." He could tell that she was surprised by his answer. Unsettled by it. It had been a shot in the dark and it seemed to have worked. With a flick of her fingers, she snapped a kunai at him. At a speed which was beyond his level. The kunai grazed his face and gouged a long, thin cut. "See you tomorrow at training ground 11 at 4. If you're late, I'll kill you," she called as she disappeared into her home. She was definitely crazy. He gaped open-mouthed at the spot she had been standing for a few seconds before turning and heading for Ichiraku with a loud groan. First Guy-sensei and now her. How the hell did he only manage to meet crazy people? Anko entered her modest home and leaned back onto the door she had just closed behind her. Closing her eyes, she analyzed the events that had just transpired. Her actions had been quite unlike her. The ease with which the brat had been able to manipulate her was shocking. On second thoughts, she realized that manipulate was the wrong word. It was quite clear to her that boy had no actual ulterior motives. In fact, it seemed to her that his answer was quite truthful. Company. Companionship. That was clearly what the boy wanted, and coming upon a person faced with a similar fate to his, he had done the only thing he could and reached out. But why had she accepted? Was she herself so lonely that the offer of companionship from a 6-year-old boy was something she was taking seriously? With a curse, she pushed off the door and walked into her bedroom. She had never been good at figuring out emotions, and she wasn't going to get any better now. As far as she was concerned, she had a spar with a fellow comrade the following day, and that was the end of the matter. One step at a time was the approach she was going to use. 1 year later, Naruto's body shivered in anticipation as he completed the final strokes of his first attempt at creating his own seal. He was extremely excited. This was the culmination of many months of hard work. The first problem Naruto had faced when he began working on Fuinjutsu was his handwriting. The art of Fuinjutsu required extremely accurate and precise penmanship. His first task had been to practice his calligraphy and improve upon it drastically. Inaccurate strokes lead to inadvertent explosions. This was something he had learned the hard way. The book he had stolen described the method for the creation of many useful seals. Storage seals, explosive seals, chakra storage seals, movement restriction seals. He had been slowly but surely mastering them one by one. Replicating the seals themselves was an easy task. Understanding the theory behind them was another matter altogether, and was something he had to do if he wanted to even dream of deciphering his own 8 trigam seal. After many months of study, this was his first foray at creating his own seal. He was attempting to make a more powerful version of the standard issue explosive tags by increasing the amount of stored chakra. The standard explosive tags used by shinobi were classified as grade 2 explosives. They were relatively cheap and easy to manufacture. The seal Naruto had come up with could easily be classified as a grade 4 explosive. Increasing the amount of stored chakra was no easy task. He had to design new storage glyphs for the additional chakra load and design additional pathways for them to flow through. Regulatory glyphs had to be added at appropriate locations to prevent overloading of chakra in certain pathways. All in all, Naruto was proud of the design he had come up with. He placed his brush onto the ground and checked his seal array one last time. The array had taken him the better part of a couple of months to design. He then prepared to pump his chakra into it. This could either go well or extremely wrong. He placed his palm in the center of the seal and let the chakra flow. He was instantly thrown back as a gigantic explosion rocked the clearing. "Kurama-san, give me your chakra. I think my skin's been burned off," howled Naruto in pain. "Humph. Here you go. Where would you be without me, boy?" The pain lessened and his skin began to regenerate as his pupils transformed into red vertical slits. About 2.5 years later, Sarutobi sat in his office waiting for Naruto. The boy was going to be 9 years old in a few weeks, and it was time to offer him the chance to become a shinobi. The civilian council was insisting that he not allow Naruto to join the academy, whereas the elder council was trying to turn him into a weapon. In fact, they had been trying to begin his training years ago. There was a knock on his door and Naruto walked in. The boy was much taller, and he had filled out quite a bit. That must be a consequence of training with Mato Guy. "Sit down, Naruto." Sarutobi looked out of the window at Minato's statue and took a couple of puffs from his pipe. "So Naruto, you will become 9 years old in 2 weeks, yes?" "Yeah, that is also the standard age for admitting children into the ninja academy." "So do you want to be enrolled?" "Of course. Are you sure?" "Just because your parents were shinobi does not mean that you have followed in their footsteps. There are many useful professions for civilians in the village as well." "Thanks, Gigi. But I want to be a shinobi." "Good. Okay then. I will have all the necessary preparations made. You will start in 2 weeks' time." Naruto's face split into his trademark grin. "Listen, Naruto, many of the children will be from shinobi families and may have received some training from their parents. You will have to work hard to keep up." "Thanks for the advice, Gigi. I'll try my best." "That's it then. You can go now. Meet me again in a couple of days. I will give you any additional details that you may require." Naruto got up and left the office with a giant grin in his face. His plan had worked. The old man did not know about his training, or he would have definitely mentioned it. Plus, he was finally joining the academy. He was one step closer to his goal now. He would be able to meet other kids like him. This was going to be really fun. Chapter 3, Academy Days. Academy Days. Naruto woke up early on the day of the entrance ceremony. His body shivering with both anticipation and nervousness for what was to come. He would be meeting kids of his own age for the first time in his life. They wouldn't know about his Jinchuriki status. They couldn't know about his Jinchuriki status. The Hokage's laws made sure of that. Would they talk to him, or would they follow their parents' cues and reject him? How strong would he be compared to the other kids in the class? He sighed. There was no point in worrying about it. The only way to find out was by actually going. He pulled open his closet and stared at the few pieces of clothing he owned. With another sigh of resignation, he pulled on his usual outfit. A black t-shirt worn over a fishnet shirt and a pair of black pants. He didn't have anything formal, and it was too late to do anything about it. By force of habit, he strapped on his weapons holster and his storage pouch as well. He was just about to sling on his swords when the realization struck him that he was going to stand out unnecessarily. The other kids were going to turn up in formal wear, and here he was strapping on all his weapons. Throwing his gear onto his bed, he slipped out of his window and took to the roofs. The rush of the wind against his face calmed him down somewhat. With speed far beyond his years, the blonde made his way over to the building opposite to the academy. Perching on the ledge, he looked down at the square and observed his peers. The place was filled with milling people. The crowd mostly consisted of children being accompanied by their parents. There were also a few shinobi in the standard Chunin uniform milling about. He watched as a father held his son's hand and led him through the academy gate. The sight struck a chord of melancholy deep within him. That could have been him in some alternate universe. He stared at the sight for a few more seconds before shaking himself. If an enemy had attacked him just then, he would have been dead. With that sobering thought, he jumped down to join the people who were about to become his classmates for the coming few years. After a lot of jostling and shouting from a pair of shinobi, the crowd eventually organized itself. All the children stood in two lines in front of a large, makeshift stage while the parents bustled about at the edge of the compound. The Sandaime walked onto the stage along with 20 shinobi, all in the standard Chunin uniforms of the village. Naruto guessed that they were the academy instructors. The Jiji started off into what was definitely going to be one of his boring and long-winded speeches. Tuning the old fart out with ease, Naruto turned his attention to his classmates. He could count around 100 of them. He had no idea how many would actually make it through. All he knew was that he would definitely be one of those. His thoughts began to wander back to his training as they usually did. His training kept all unnecessary thoughts out of his head. Now that he had classes to attend at the academy, he would have to cut back on the morning training sessions with Gai-sensei. He could still train with him on the weekends. His Fuinjutsu sessions would have to be cut short as well. The time spent on ninjutsu would have to be reduced so as to accommodate Fuinjutsu. His studies into the field of Fuinjutsu had made a lot of progress, and had bestowed upon him unforeseen benefits. His house was now completely sealed against intruders. The seals only recognized and admitted his chakra signature. He had also managed to achieve a reasonable proficiency in the creation of chakra restriction seals, storage seals and explosive tags, all of which were extremely useful in combat if he managed to successfully deploy them. Especially explosive tags. A burst of applause, mainly from the parents, informed him that the speech was over. He watched as the shinobi to the Jiji's right took over the podium. He was of average height and build with a horizontal scar running across his face. Students and parents can now leave. The children have to report to their classrooms tomorrow at 8 in the morning. The lists of classroom allotments have been put up on the notice board. You are requested to check the list if you haven't already. All students will be tested tomorrow to see their current skill levels and are requested to come prepared. That will be all. As soon as he finished, most of the crowd went over to the notice boards. Naruto avoided the crowd like a plague and walked to the side. He intended to keep a low profile and not draw attention to himself. There were quite a few angry eyes on him, and he had no intention of provoking them. Most of the open area of the academy was covered with training grounds for the students. There was also a small swing, and that was what Naruto headed for. He sat himself down upon the dusty seat and slowly began to rock himself back and forth. The stage was not too far from where he was. As soon as the Hokage stepped off, he was surrounded by an angry mob of parents. Mostly women and mostly civilian. Naruto could quite easily guess the topic of conversation. He forced a bit of chakra to his ears and continued swinging. Could you let that boy join? I will not let my son be in the same classroom as the demon. And thanks to your ridiculous laws I can't even warn him about that thing. All I can tell him is to avoid the demon, but my son never listens to me. Who knows what that thing will do to him? So they were talking about him. He guess had been spot on. He's right. What if he corrupts my daughter? I will not accept this. He must be removed from the academy at once. Enough. As you can see, none of the shinobi parents have a problem with Naruto. So I don't see why you do. Besides, my decision is final. I have already overruled the civilian council. Your petty arguments are not going to make me change my mind. Now leave me. I have better things to do than listen to your pointless complaints, growled Sarutobi with unrestrained menace in his voice. An angry Hokage was not what they had expected. They got the hint and hastily backed away. The old man turned and looked right at him. Naruto calmly met his eyes. Naruto was far enough to be considered out of earshot even by shinobi standards. However, the blonde could see that the old man knew different. The old man knew that he had overheard the conversation. Maybe he hadn't been as good at hiding his skills as what he had initially thought. Naruto dug his heels into the ground and brought a halt to his momentum. He got up and dusted himself off. With his hands in his pockets, he casually walked behind one of the trees holding up the swing. The academy had been built right against the Hokage monument. He was now most definitely out of the sight of his watchers. Without a single hand sign, he created a Kage Bunshin and hinged himself into a rat. The Bunshin walked on as if nothing had happened and he scurried away towards the exit. As soon as he was a safe distance from the academy, he scurried into an alley and transformed back. He still couldn't believe that this trick managed to shake off his Anbu tail every single time. Smirking to himself, he left for the forest of death to work off his tension. Iruka was really nervous. The Hokage had summoned him to his office, and for the life of him he couldn't think of a reason why. Maybe the fact that he had punished a council member's son last week was coming to bite him in the ass now. Iruka cursed under his breath. He had been doing his job and was trying to be fair to all the students. The kid had misbehaved and he had punished him. He hadn't expected the kid to complain to his father. As he reached the door, the Anbu guards nodded at him, allowing him to enter. The Hokage was reading a book when he entered and looked up when he heard the door open. With a smile, he motioned to him to take a chair. Iruka's apprehension lessened. As far as he knew, the Hokage wasn't a sadistic person, so if he was being smiled at, then he was most probably not going to get screwed. Iruka, I called you here to talk to you about Naruto. Naruto? You mean that? His voice trailed off. The Hokage nodded at him. I made sure that he was in your class. Iruka had already noted the presence of the Jinchuriki in his class the week before. He was simply being thorough and was brushing up on the backgrounds of all his students. What he had not known was that the boy had been specifically placed under him. And he could quite frankly not think of a justifiable reason for such an action. Why? Because I know that you would never let personal feelings come before your duty. You would have treated the boy fairly even if you hated him. I don't hate him. I'm a shinobi. Not a civilian. I know about seals. The boy is at no fault for what happened to my parents. The Hokage smiled again. Most shinobi know that, but despite that they still shun him. That is what I wanted to talk to you about. Naruto is strong. Very strong. He might even be past Chunin level already. That level of strength was almost unheard of for a boy of his age. Of course, there were always exceptions, but those occurred so rarely that they could quite easily be discounted. Hatake Kakashi, Uchiha Itachi, Minato Namikaze. Such shinobi only appeared once a generation. What? Impossible. He is only 9. How could H? Yet that is the truth. However, strength isn't everything. He has been alone all his life. He has no friends. He tries to fend off the loneliness by training. This is not good for the boy. I want you to help him. You understand his feelings better than anybody else. He has all the reasons to hate all of us and seek revenge on us. Instead, he trains hard and strives to prove himself to us. I will not let his sacrifice go in vain. He does not know how to trust others and have faith in his comrades. He believes only in his own strength. I want you to change that. I want you to teach him how to have fun and be happy. When a shinobi represses emotions, it always has consequences later. How am I supposed to do something like that? You are the best teacher I have. I have faith in you. You'll figure something out. Iruka looked up at the ceiling and was lost in thought for some time. He then nodded to himself and got up to leave. I'll try my best, Hokage-sama. Oh, by the way, Iruka, don't tell Naruto that I know how strong he is. He thinks he has pulled the wool over my eyes. I want to see his expression for myself when he finds out how wrong he is. The Hokage let out a few amused chuckles. Iruka walked away shaking his head. Naruto woke up late the next morning. He had trained more than he should have the previous day. He was supposed to have been at the academy 10 minutes ago. He got up and changed out of his bloody clothes at breakneck speed. Exiting by his window, he started a chain of shunshin which brought him to the academy within a minute. He looked at the map installed near the entrance to help the newcomers. His classroom was the second one from the right on the first floor. Looking up, he could see that the window was open. He wondered if jumping through windows was against academy policy. With a shrug, he bent his knees and jumped. There was an adult standing at the front of the classroom and talking to the students. Naruto surmised from his demeanor that the man was the instructor. That was the last thought which occurred to Naruto before he landed smack on top of the Chunin. Naruto cursed under his breath. His plan had been to keep a low profile. Not to take out his teacher on the first day. He looked down and saw it was the same guy who had made the announcement yesterday. He got off with a sheepish expression on his face. I'm sorry. Didn't see where I was going. The man got up and glared down at him. And would you mind telling me why you chose to come in from the window in the first place? I was late and I saw the window was open and so, the man sighed. Late on his first day. Kids these days. Iruka's voice trailed away as he shook his head. Never mind. We had just finished with introductions and were about to move outside to test taijutsu. Why don't you introduce yourself and then we can go outside, he said with a smile. All the kids were looking at Naruto with an expression of shock on their faces. To be fair to them, his entry had been quite boisterous. Naruto scratched his head nervously and stared blankly at his peers. What am I supposed to say? Why don't you tell them your name, your likes, dislikes and hobbies and such? And your dream for the future? My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Likes, well, I like ramen. Dislikes, don't really have any. Hobbies, none, I guess. Dream for the future, my dream is to become the Hokage. The whispers died down. Most of the kids were still staring at him, but a few broke out into laughter. A kid with red hair laughed the loudest. You? The Hokage? Please. My dad told me that you were trash of the worst kind and you would never be able to accomplish anything. There is no way someone like you can become someone cool like the Hokage. Naruto looked at the kid and raised one eyebrow. Well then, too bad for you that I don't give a flying fuck what your father thinks about me. That's my dream and he can't do jack shit about it. You can tell your father that I dare him to say that to me face to face. Gasps spread out among the room. Naruto cursed under his breath once again. He had let the idiot's insult get to him. His plan to stay out of the limelight was up in flames in the first 5 minutes itself, and now he was going to be chewed out by the instructor. He cursed Anko for teaching him so many cusses. Asano-kun, I will not have words like that spoken in my classroom again. I am going to talk to your parents about this. And you Naruto, I will not tolerate such filthy language again, you hear me? This is your first and final warning. Now class, let's move, thundered Iruka. Naruto looked up in shock. The man had taken his side and defended him. He'd only gotten scolded for his language. Shaking his head in disbelief and cursing Anko again for corrupting him, he followed the rest of class out, while keeping a close eye on Iruka. The man was not what he had expected. Iruka led them to one of the many training grounds of the academy. Okay, listen everybody. I am now going to test your taijutsu. You see this circle? You have to fight your opponent inside it. You win if you score more hits or force your opponent outside the circle. Each spar will last for a maximum of 5 minutes. Understood? He received a series of nods in response. Good. Now those of you who have received training in the art of taijutsu before, please raise your hands. A quarter of the group raised their hands. From their clothes, Naruto could deduce that most of them were from one of the village's many clans. Good. That's more than I expected. Let's begin. The rest of you will have to watch, observe, and learn. Taijutsu will be one of the first things we're going to teach you. Now, who volunteers for the first spar? Naruto hung back in the crowd to watch the first spar. His muscles were tingling with anticipation as the two took up their stances. A second later, he let out a breath of frustration and relaxed his muscles. The instant the match had begun, he had known from their movements that they were no match for him. They were slow and their forms were full of openings. Guy-sensei would have cried if he had seen them. The second pair was no better. One of the third pair didn't even know a proper stance. What the hell had he been worried for? They all sucked. It would be extremely tiresome for him to even bother fighting at their level. He sighed and began to mentally berate himself for listening to Anko. That woman could just not be trusted. She seemed to go to great lengths just to make his life miserable. With a start, he broke out of his reverie and refocused on the proceedings as a series of gasps escaped the kids around him. A boy with the Uchiha symbol on his back was beating the crap out of his opponent. And in Inuzuka, many girls cooed at him and whispers of Uchiha genius started flitting amongst the children. Naruto sighed again. The Uchiha was so full of openings, he could have beaten him with his hands tied and his eyes blinded. He slipped out of the crowd and walked up to a tree and looked at it for a few seconds. Then he banged his head against it 3 times. He didn't deserve this. Not after all the work he had put into his training. Sensei, he called out. I quit my match. Then he sat down and feigned sleep whilst ignoring all the looks he was receiving. His plan had been to stay in the middle of the class and not draw attention to himself, but these guys were so weak he couldn't even do that. He was going to sleep through every class and test. He had already learned all the things the academy could teach him a long while ago. Now all he could do was to wait. He cursed the Gigi for passing the law that prevented early graduation. The only positive from the clusterfuck that was his life was that he could train longer into the night if he managed to catch up with his sleep in the academy. It was time to begin elemental manipulation. He opened his eyes when he sensed a presence in front of him. He looked up and saw a kid with a spiky ponytail. Sensei, the kid called out. I was his opponent. With that he sat down next to him and closed his eyes. Naruto shrugged and closed his eyes as well. Iruka watched Naruto as he walked off. He couldn't really blame the kid if the Hokage was correct about his strength, but was banging his head really necessary? His eyes widened as another kid joined Naruto. Wasn't he a Nara? Sensei, the kid called out. I was his opponent. The kid sat down and went to sleep. He tried very hard not to hit himself. The Nara were famous for their lackadaisical approach to life. Oi! You too! Get up right now and get back here! Sensei, everyone is too strong for me. I can't win against them and I won't become better by watching them, so let me sleep, said Naruto. Iruka twitched. The Nara just slept on. Both of you back here now! He roared. He twitched again. His shout had worked, but both of them were dragging their feet as they walked back. This was going to be a long 3 years. A stampede of sorts jolted Naruto from his sleep. All the kids were leaving the classroom. He looked up at the time and guessed that it was lunch. The kid with the spiky ponytail was waking up next to him. Where's Chuji? He asked. Who, Chuji? The guy who was eating chips throughout class. Went out, I guess. Troublesome. Help me find him. Sure. Don't have anything else to do anyway. Don't you want to eat lunch? He asked as he pulled out a lunch bag from somewhere. Didn't bring any. Besides, I never eat at this time. The kid turned around and looked at Naruto. Why? I'm an orphan. He shrugged as if it answered the question. The other boy, surprisingly, nodded in understanding. Lucky you? Here. You can share with me. My mom gave me too much. Name's Shikamaru, by the way. Naruto. No, it's okay. Your mom packed it for you. Not for me. Troublesome. I told you there's too much. Have some. If I don't finish it, my mom will eat my head when I get home. I'm okay if you say so. They walked out into the park and almost ran into Chuji. There you are, Shikamaru. I thought you would be still waiting for me in classroom. I went to get my lunch from mom. She was waiting at the gate, he said, holding up a huge bag. It's okay. This is Naruto. He forgot his lunch, so share some of yours. Sure. Hi, I'm Chuji. Now let's go eat. How about that tree? Works for me. Shikamaru just grunted. Naruto got up as the bell signaling the end of classes rang. He made his way to the window and was just about to leave through it when he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Iruka-sensei. What is with you and windows? Come on and use the door like a normal person. Iruka led the way out. As Naruto neared the gate, he saw parents gathered there to take their children home. That is why I wanted to use the window, muttered Naruto. Iruka-sensei seemed to have heard him, and looked down at him with an odd expression on his face. Somehow it seemed as if he understood. Come on, let's go somewhere to eat. My treat. I noticed that you didn't eat a proper lunch. You must be hungry. Do you like yakiniku? Never eaten it. You'll like it then. Come on. Naruto stared at the delicious food placed in front of him. He had never even smelled something that good. It just seemed too good to be true. Why? He asked, looking up at the scarred chunin. Isn't it okay for a teacher to treat his student to some food? Maybe. But definitely not until they get to know each other. Well, I'm a bit different. You'll be doing this for the rest of the class as well? Depends. Maybe. Maybe not, replied Iruka evasively. Naruto stared at the plate of yakiniku. His system could resist almost all the poisons known to shinobi. As long as the poison is tasteless, he'd be able to enjoy the food. With a shrug, he dug in. That night, Naruto stood knocking hard at a door. The door opened, revealing a sleepy Anko. What do you want, kid? She growled as she let him in. Why the hell didn't you tell me how pathetic the kids at the academy were? You never asked, brat, she answered, coolly ignoring the glare Naruto was directing at her. Forget pathetic, they're so bad I could beat all of them using just my little finger. Why, if you woke me up just a bitch, then get out. Naruto ignored her and sank into her couch. So what are you going to do? Show them how good you really are and hope the Sandaime overlooks his own law to let you graduate early? Hell no. There's this Uchiha in my class. Among all those pathetic idiots, this guy is the least pathetic. Everyone is calling him a genius and most of the girls flock around him as if they want to marry him or something, said Naruto with a shudder. There's no way I want that. I'm going to scrape through every test and exam graduation. Wait, you're saying the girls in your class are after this Uchiha? Weren't you listening? Yeah. Why? A devious grin slowly spread over Anko's face. Naruto started sweating when he saw it. He knew that smile and it definitely did not signify anything good. Naruto-kun, I think it's time Anko-nichin gave you the talk. 2 weeks later, Iruka-sensei, Naruto called as he demolished his 7th bowl of ramen. Yeah, what? Why are you doing this? Doing what? Taking me out for dinner and spending time with me. Because I want to. Huh. A faraway look came into Iruka's eyes and he was silent for a while. Naruto, I'm an orphan like you. I know what it feels like to be alone. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. He put some money down on the table and got up to leave. Which were? Iruka sighed. He had almost managed to wing a cool exit. He didn't get the chance to do that very often. To grow up to become a characterless, boring person whose only hobby is his work. Come on. You're not that bad, well actually you are. You even work while making dinner for yourself. Hey wait, that's it, Naruto exclaimed with a look of realization on his face. What? Didn't you tell me that most shinobi develop some kind of quirk, or the other to cope with the job? What's your point? Your quirk is working. You work more to handle the stress of work. Wait, that's actually stupid. Fuck. That's not a quirk. Sorry sensei, but you're just boring. Iruka twitched. 2 weeks later. Enough already. I'm going to die at this rate, shouted Naruto as he collapsed onto the ground in the middle of one of Konoha's many training grounds. Really? That's all you got, kid? Pathetic, purred Anko as she sheathed the kunai in her hands. Look at me, growled Naruto in exasperation, gesturing at himself. His outfit was in tatters and he was bleeding from multiple wounds. A little bit of blood never hurt anyone, brat. How are you going to learn otherwise? A little bit? You've cut me in 15 different places. Your fault for being so slow. Forgive me for not being as fast as a jounin. Excuses, sang Anko as she walked over and plopped down next to him. Naruto sighed and lay back onto the ground. Silence pervaded the training ground for quite a while. You're completely crazy, you know? He asked quietly after a while, staring up at the afternoon sky. I know, she replied, not looking at him either. What happened? He asked after a long pause. You be a shinobi long enough, you become like this. None of the shinobi I've met are anything like you. Don't worry, kid. We're all fucked up on the inside. It's the only way to cope with this job. Sooner or later, you'll have to see and do things which you're too ashamed to talk about. Look at Guy, for instance. Then why do it? Because it's the only thing I know how to do, and it's the only thing I've been doing my whole life. And I also happen to be quite good at it. I'm having second thoughts about my career choice now. If you want a long and happy life, then quit now. You're doing a really good job of selling the career to me. I'm not. You shouldn't do it if you're not cut out for it. That's just another early death for the village. And am I cut out for it? You? She asked, turning her head and facing him for the first time in the conversation. Yeah. I think you'll do well. Shame though. I have no intention of ending up like you. I'd rather choose my focus of insanity rather develop one over time. Good luck with that, kid. 1 week later. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I've been a teacher for quite a few years now. There's a difference between a stupid idea and a novel idea. No. This one is definitely stupid. Are you going to help me or not? Asked Naruto as he slurped up the last bit of ramen from his bowl. Help you decide what personality quirk you want to develop? A quirk which will help you cope with the harshness of shinobi life. No. I think I'll pass on this one. Oh, come on. You're my teacher, aren't you? Isn't it your job to help me with things like this? No. My job is to drill the basics of shinobi life into you so that you won't die when you go out into the field. Not to encourage my students to take their first steps towards insanity. Bah. This is the boring side of you talking. Don't you have a fun side or something? Enough, said Irika as he placed some money on the counter and got up. I've got work to do. I don't have time for this. See you tomorrow. Don't be late. Irika had just reached the entrance when there was a loud cry from behind him. He turned and raised an eyebrow at his student. That's it. I've decided. Thanks, sensei. You're a genius. Naruto raced away before he could ask him what he had meant by that. Irika rewinded the conversation in his mind and examined his last words. He gasped in shock as his mind began to grasp the consequences of his words. Oh God, what had he done? Next day, Naruto, you're late to class by an hour. What happened? You see, sensei, yesterday on my way home a bird shat on me. I decided that I deserved revenge and I chased it all the way to Taiga. Just got back. Man, I'm tired. Irika gaped at him. He had created a monster. Hatake Kakashi sneezed. 6 months later. Come home for dinner tonight. Naruto turned and stared at Shikamaru. What? No, man. I've got stuff to do. You always have something to do. Your tone is especially unsuitable for sarcasm. At least make an effort. Stop being so troublesome, will you? My mom is biting my head off about meeting all my friends. If you don't come tonight, my life's going to be hell for more than a week. Naruto turned to Chuji, positioning his head behind the student sitting in front of him so that Irika couldn't see him talking. Aren't you going? Me? Shikamaru's parents have known me my whole life. Our dads were on the same team. Great. There you go. Chuji's coming, he said to Shikamaru. Not Chuji, man. My mom wants to meet my other friends, and you're the only option I have. Trust me on this. Your parents don't want to meet me. What do you mean? Just trust me on this, okay? But my mom does want to meet you. Naruto bit back his reply and carefully considered Shikamaru's words. So you've told your mom about me? He asked after a short pause. Yeah. That's what I've been saying this whole while, grumbled Shikamaru. You told her my name? No. Tell her my name, and then see if she still wants me over. Why do? 3 pieces of chalk thundered into the wall an inch above their heads and interrupted their conversation. Quiet back there, shouted Irika. Later, hissed Naruto as all 3 of them stared innocently at the blackboard. What's your problem? Just come for fucking dinner, snapped Shikamaru as they broke for lunch an hour later. And I'm telling you that it's better if I don't. Okay, now, calm down you two. There's no need to fight, called Chuji, digging into his crisps with gusto, a telltale sign that he was nervous. Naruto, what's the problem? Look, adults and I don't do well together. Why? I don't know, muttered Naruto, turning and walking away. In a flash, Shikamaru leaned forward and grabbed his friend's shoulder. Look, I don't know about other adults but my parents are okay. You can trust me on that. There was a long pause in the conversation. Naruto finally turned around and looked at Shikamaru. Okay then. I'll be there. Dad, you got a minute? Shikaka Nara sighed and opened his eyes. Your mother know I'm here? No. She's looking for you in the forest. What do you want? Mom wanted me to invite my friends for dinner. So I asked Naruto. And he wasn't very keen. Insisted that I let you know about him beforehand. Naruto? Yeah. Naruto Uzumaki? Yeah. His father sat up and looked at him. I see. Don't blame the kid. Sure, bring him over. Shouldn't be a problem. You know why he didn't want to come? Yes. Why? Son, if I tell you that, then I would be committing a capital offense. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? Why would there be a capital law regarding Naruto? That's all you're getting out of me. Bring him over if you want to. I'll have a word with your mom as well, but you don't need to worry. She's a shinobi, and she knows how it works. It was a nervous Naruto that walked into the Nara clan compound. He had absolutely no idea how the night is going to pan out, but it definitely couldn't be anything good. He had known that this was going to happen sooner or later. The presence of his partner pervaded universally into all aspects of his life. It was the payment for the power he received in return. When he reached Shikamaru's house, he lingered uncertainly on the porch. For once, he was not sure about what to do. He could see the impending doom of his friendship as clear as day, and that wasn't something he was completely comfortable with. His mind had resigned itself to that outcome, but his heart seemed to have some trouble complying with it. His thoughts were interrupted by a shout. "Hey Naruto!" Naruto spun with his right hand flicking up to his non-existent sword. He had been caught completely off guard again. He needed to control his emotions better. It was Chuji, and his father, who had most definitely noticed his movements. "Sorry. You scared me there," he said with a sheepish chuckle. Taking a few steps forward, he bowed and greeted, "Akimichi-san." Chuji's father chuckled. Now. There's no need for all that. Especially from my son's friend. It's good to finally meet you. My wife and I have heard a lot about you from Chuji here," he said, patting his son on the head. Naruto looked up in surprise. Such a response was definitely not what he had expected. Maybe the world wasn't as bleak as he thought. Maybe there were normal people out there who didn't hate him as well. "Come on. Let's go in," boomed Chuza, leading the two academy students up the porch. Not bothering with knocking, he walked right in. "We're here," he boomed. "Come and see who we've brought." A petite, pretty woman in her late 30s bustled out a side room. "Good, you're here. It's nice to see you again," she said. In a flash, she turned on Naruto. "And you must be Naruto. It's great to finally meet you. I would really like to say that I have heard a lot about you, but frankly my idiot of a son doesn't tell me anything. Which reminds me. That boy is off hiding somewhere." "You have." Naruto slowly lost track of what Shikamaru's mother was saying. All he could focus on was the smile he had received in welcome. Maybe his portents were not going to ring true after all. "Thank you for the food, Mr. and Mrs. Nara. It was amazing. I've never had a home-cooked dinner before," gushed Naruto at the Nara porch. Dinner was over and everyone was heading home. "Not a problem, sweetie. It was great to have someone actually appreciate my cooking." "These two slackers never say a word," smiled Yoshino. "Bye then," called Naruto as he walked off. "Hey Chuji, got a minute?" asked Shikamaru, walking down his porch. Chuji and his father turned and looked askance at him. "Just wanted to talk to Chuji about something," explained Shikamaru to Chuza. "Of course," said Chuza graciously with a smile. "I'll just walk on ahead. Chuji can catch up later." "Mom, Dad? I'll be in a minute. Take your time," called his father as his parents went back into his house. "What did you want to talk about?" asked Chuji as they walked a safe distance behind Chuza. "It's about Naruto." "You spoke to your father about him?" "Yeah. My father came straight out and said that he knew the reason Naruto was nervous and said that he couldn't tell me. Refused to say a word, no matter how many times I asked. Mine was worse." "What do you mean?" "He said that he could tell me, but he would be committing a capital offense if he did so." "You mean there's a law about Naruto?" "Seems to be so." "But why? He's just a normal guy." "Oh come on. He's the least normal guy in our entire class. He always says he's busy with something or the other, and I don't think he's lying when he says so." "Well yeah, that's there. But that's not anything bad. We all have something we don't want to talk to others about." Shikamaru sighed. "You're always too optimistic. And you're always too paranoid. With reason, that's what you say. Let him be. I don't think he'll like it if you try to pry." "Wasn't intending to. Too troublesome. I don't think I would find out anything if I tried anyway. He's much smarter than he lets on." "As if. I know you. Once you can't figure something out, you can't let it go until you solve it." "I can. If I know I'm invading someone's personal space by doing so. Which in this case, it seems I am." "Relax, will you? You're overthinking things as usual. Just let him be." Shikamaru sighed once again. "I guess you're right. He hasn't even done anything yet." 6 months later, Iruka walked into the Hokage's office to see the old man hard at work on his paperwork. The Hokage set down his pen, got up and walked to the window as Iruka sat down. "Iruka, I called you here about Naruto. I haven't had the chance to talk to Naruto in recent times. The boy seems to have forgotten me now that he's joined the academy. Just wanted to ask you about him. How's he doing?" "Well, I don't really know how he was before he joined the academy, so I really can't comment on that. Other than that, he's pretty much a normal kid, generally keeps to himself and doesn't interact much with the other students, but that in itself isn't anything alarming. Many students are quite shy at that age. He has made a couple of friends and he spends all his time with them in the academy. I have no idea whether he meets them outside the academy. Frankly, I have no idea what he does once classes are over, but he always gives off the impression of being busy with something. I'm not sure whether I should believe him or not." "I see. And about what I discussed earlier? What steps have you taken?" "I didn't do anything much actually. Which, I realize now in hindsight was a good thing. From what I can gather, Naruto is an extremely private person, and I'm sure he'll react very severely to any attempts to gain an insight into his doings. He also happens to be vehemently independent, and doesn't like to be told what to do. While that is a good thing for a boy of his age, it may cause problems once he is assigned to his team. The main problem, however, is not his personality." "What is it?" "He is consistently last in every single written examination, and he either flat out refuses to participate or performs extremely lackadaisically in practical tests. Based on his scores, one can judge him to be a complete idiot, which I know, through our interactions, he isn't. I will not comment about the practical tests, but I am certain that he is purposely undermining himself in the written examinations. While I can understand the need to hide one's skills to a certain extent, undermining oneself to be the bottom of the class is a concept I cannot completely fathom. Humor him for the time being, Irika. His true skills will come out sometime or the other. But you still haven't answered my question. What did you do? I initially took him out for dinner a couple of times just to get a grasp of his personality. Once I got a grasp of the person he was, I realized that the thing he craved for most was company. The same thing I wanted back when I was a child. So I gave it to him. I was an adult who took out time to interact with him and respected his opinions. Given the amount of time it took him to open up to me, I may even suggest that he may have severe trust issues. Not surprising given his upbringing, but once again something which may cause issues once he joins a team. I see. Any idea regarding the beef he has with me? I could detect quite a bit of hostility from him the last time we met. Hostility towards you? I do, Irika. I have been doing this since before I was born. I can tell when somebody has a problem with me. Especially if the person in question is a child. Irika shut his mouth chastised. Swallowing his spittle, he continued, my apologies, Hokage-sama. I did not mean it that way. Naruto speaks of you very rarely and never angrily at that. That was the only reason for my previous comment. I see. I am sorry as well. I should not have snapped at you. You have done a commendable job. Now go. I need to complete this dastardly paperwork. Irika walked out imagining a restless Naruto as Hokage hard at work on his paperwork. An image bloomed in his mind, and at the sight of it, he burst out laughing. The Anbu guards looked at him oddly for an instant before returning their attention to the inspection of the surroundings for any signs of danger. Spontaneous laughter was amongst the least crazy things they had seen shinobi do. 1 year later, Naruto waited for Gai-sensei at Konoha's gate at the crack of dawn on a Saturday. Bored of his vigil, he walked to the gatekeeper's booth and looked inside. As usual, both of them were asleep. Oi! Izumo-san, Kotetsu-san, wake up. Gai-sensei will be here any minute, and I don't want to hear him shout about unyouthfulness so early in the morning. Both of them jolted awake and looked around blearily. Kotetsu scratched his head and flipped him, which earned him a knock on the head from Izumo. You didn't have to do that, kid. Naruto looked at him incredulously. You seriously don't mind being woken up by shouts about unyouthfulness? Sheesh, Kotetsu shuddered. Sorry. You're right. That would suck. Thanks, I guess, he said, rubbing his head sheepishly. Why do you two always take this detail anyways? It's got to be the most boring chore in the village. Nah, kid. Wait till you have to do D-ranks. Besides, this job is an honorable duty which is only given to the most trusted of Chunin, said Kotetsu proudly. That's bullshit. We're here because this piece of shit is too lazy to do anything else, and thanks to him I get stuck here as well every day, said Izumo, jerking his thumb at Kotetsu. Why don't you just leave him hanging? Asked Naruto. Izumo's answer was lost to thunderous footsteps as Guy arrived at the gate accompanied by a miniature version of him. Oh god, he multiplied, said Naruto in alarm. Izumo and Kotetsu snickered. Good morning, my most youthful pupil. Please meet Rock Lee, said Guy, pointing to the miniature version of himself. He is in my genin team and will now train with us. Lee, if you want to accomplish your dream, then you must work at least as hard as Naruto-kun here. He has been doing this for 5 years now. You have a lot of catching up to do. Are you two related or something? Interrupted Naruto. Yash. I am honored that you consider me worthy enough to be Gai-sensei's relative, but the answer to your question is in the negative, Lee shouted. Yash, Naruto-kun, it is an honor to meet you. Gai-sensei has told me a lot, Anbu. At that moment, Naruto made one of the biggest mistakes of his life. He tuned out Lee and began to compare his appearance with Gai's. They had the same eyebrows, the same hair, the same clothes, the same voice. How could they not be related? He only belatedly realized that Lee had stopped talking and was looking at him as if he was expecting an answer. Refocusing himself to the conversation, he asked, Huh? You said something? A deep silence fell amongst them as the wind began to blow loudly and a crow flew past them cawing loudly. Naruto could not have seen the long-drawn consequences of his slip-up. Yash! Naruto-kun, what an unbelievably cool and hip attitude you have. I henceforth proclaim you as my eternal rival, Lee shouted. Naruto began to sweat. He did not deserve this. Guy alone was too much to handle. Izumo and Kotetsu's snickers transformed into full-blown laughter. That's enough, Lee. It is good that you have found an eternal rival, but you are way too early to challenge him. Now let's begin. Yash. Guy disappeared, leaving behind a cloud of dust, a confused Naruto, an excited Lee, and a laughing Izumo and Kotetsu. Yash. Wait for me, Gai-sensei, shouted Lee as he ran after his mentor. He's got to be an illegitimate child or something, muttered Naruto. Are you crazy? Can you even imagine Mato Guy doing that? Kotetsu wheezed, trying to control his laughter. You never know. Alcohol can bring down all barriers, said Izumo, desperately trying to curb his laughter. Alcohol can overcome that? I have got to try it sometime, muttered Naruto. Boy. You're too young to drink, and on that note you're also too young to know about sex as well. What have you been reading? Izumo asked, getting up and coming out of the booth as Kotetsu watched on. Naruto muttered something in a low voice. What's that? Louder, please. I said that Anko-nichan already gave me the talk. You don't need to do it, muttered a blushing Naruto. Anko? As in Anko Midarashi? Are you saying Anko Midarashi gave you the talk? Kid, I feel truly sorry for you, said Izumo as they both burst into laughter again. What the fuck do you mean sorry? Dude, Anko gave him the talk. I'm jealous. Kid, was she wearing that overcoat when she... With a squeak, Naruto took off after Guy and Lee, leaving behind a roaring Izumo and Kotetsu. 1 year later. Oi Naruto. You sure you'll be okay today? I have never ever seen you fight before, and now you turn up on the day of the graduation exam with a couple of swords. Sure you can handle those without cutting yourself? And how come you're on time today? You're always late, growled Kiba at a yawning Naruto. It was the day of the practical test for graduation from the academy. Naruto had easily aced the written portions. It was the first time in years that Naruto had taken off his body weights. He was taking no chances with this test. He was more than ready for the next level. You say something? Oh, fuck off, you annoying bastard. You heard exactly what I said. Can you use those swords? Maybe, Naruto drawled. Damn you, yo. Relax, Kiba. Stop being troublesome. You know he's not going to tell you anything unless he wants to. You're better off worrying about yourself, said Shikamaru from beside Naruto on the last row. I was just trying to help a friend. If he do, sorry Kiba. I was just kidding. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me, said Naruto just as Iruka-sensei walked into the classroom. Hello everyone. I hope all of you are properly rested and ready for this exam. First you will be tested on your taijutsu. Then your weapon skills and finally your ninjutsu. To ensure no bias, I will be conducting the tests for Classroom B. Mizuki-sensei will be the one taking yours. Good luck to all of you. Now you should head outside. Mizuki-sensei will be waiting there for you. There was a general scramble for the door. Iruka looked at Naruto and mouthed good luck. Naruto smirked confidently back at him. Iruka twitched and walked off shaking his head. Naruto hung back with Shikamaru and Chuji as Kiba rushed off towards the front of the line. Chuji was speed-eating chips once again, a sure sign of his nervousness. Rather than me, shouldn't you be worried, Shikamaru? Do you even know taijutsu? I don't really care whether I pass or not. Thinking about it is too troublesome, whatever man. I just don't think your mom will be too happy if you fail. You don't need to remind me. Naruto slipped into the crowd and took up a position near the front to watch. From the original 50 students, the class strength had dwindled down to about 35. He watched as Mizuki put the kids through their paces one by one. Most of them were not as bad as they had been when they had joined, but were still no match for him. All they ever followed was the basic academy taijutsu style, something Naruto hadn't even bothered to learn, and stuck to it without considering any improvisations. How they were going to survive missions, he did not know. He supposed that their respective jounin senseis would whip them into shape before taking them for missions involving combat. Naruto's name was called. He walked casually into the circle and stood there waiting. Mizuki looked at him and sneered. Putting his hand into his pocket, he removed a kunai. For you brat, I'm going to hold a very special test. Let's see how you hold up against this. All the kids watched them with bated breath. None of the previous examinees had had to face a kunai. Naruto yawned and took up a lazy stance. Seeing that his taunt had been ignored, Mizuki charged at a speed no pre-genin would be able to follow. Naruto! Look out! Shouted a voice in warning. It was Chuji. It was unnecessary. Naruto calmly stepped around the first stab and countered with a quick punch to the jaw. There was a soft thump as the counter landed and Mizuki's head was knocked back. Enraged, the Chunin led a feint with his right foot and attempted to slice at Naruto's chest. With an elegant backward sway, Naruto avoided the attack and slammed Mizuki's wrist with the heel of his hand. The kunai erupted from the Chunin's hand and spun uselessly to the floor. With a snarl of pain, Mizuki jumped back to make some space and began circling the blonde as a predator tracks his prey. You surprised me there, demon. You're better than what I thought you would be. I suppose that was expected given what you are. One day I shall make sure that you join your parents in hell. Naruto stiffened and all laziness left his body. He placed one hand on the handle of his sword. Take back what you said about my parents. Touchy are we? I suppose even one such as you would have feelings for its parents. I guess it's a good thing they're dead. They're better off not seeing what their offspring has become. Goodbye, snarled Naruto. Naruto dug his toes into the ground and shifted his body weight forward. He bent his knees a bit and began to draw his sword. Years of training with ever-increasing body weights had given Naruto a speed which was almost jounin level. Pushing his toes back, he charged. From his perspective, time was moving normally. For Mizuki and the rest of the pre-genin, Naruto had simply disappeared. He appeared behind Mizuki an instant later, spinning and finishing his draw. Given his short stature and muscle tone, there was not much power behind his blows. Naruto made up for that with speed and precision. And with momentum. The momentum of his spin was enough to cut through solid wood. His fully drawn sword gleamed and flashed in the sunlight as it arced towards the unaware Chunin. The edge of the blade was barely inches away from scoring blood when its progress was halted by a gloved hand. The hand belonged to a member of the Konoha Anbu, an Anbu wearing an ox mask. That's enough, Uzumaki. Sheath your weapon now. Mizuki yelped in surprise and jumped away breathlessly. He had not been able to even follow the blonde's movements, and he had enough experience in the field to put together what had just transpired. Oxan, I'm warning you. Get away from me before I do make you do so, Naruto growled in anger. Boy, I have been watching you since you were 6. I know the limit of your abilities. Now sheath your sword before I'm forced to do it for you. Wrong. You know only what I let you see. I have been slipping away from your watch to train for years now. I'm warning you again. Ox tightened his grip on Naruto's sword. With a curse, Naruto streamed a burst of Futon chakra into his blade. Ox let go off the sword instantly, and stepped back in a hurry, slightly off balance. And that was all Naruto needed. Given his lack of power and the lack of speed due to his training weights, the only way he had managed to survive bouts with Guy and Anko had been by developing the skill to deal precise and sharp counters and by mastering the art of utilizing the opponent's openings. He spun in an instant, and hit the off-balance Ox with the butt of his sword with all the force he could muster, knocking him back a couple of feet. Continuing his spin, Naruto drew his second katana and was about to leap towards Mizuki when 3 more Anbu appeared around him. His blade was blocked by a tanto, and 2 kunai were held against his throat. That's enough, Uzumaki. Stand down. Mizuki stared at Naruto with fear in his eyes and with shaking knees. He could clearly see that he had just scored a lucky escape. You guys keep popping up like rabbits, don't you? Drawled Naruto without a semblance of fear in his voice. The rest of the pre-genins watched on in stunned silence. Almost none of them had been able to follow the flow of the short scuffle and were frankly baffled by the proceedings. Some, however, had managed to decipher the fight. Shikamaru was one of those and he stepped up to help his friend. Where Shikamaru went, Chuji followed. Anbu-san, Naruto was provoked first. Sensei is equally at fault here. Get back, Shikamaru. This doesn't involve you. Enough is enough, shouted Ox. Pulling out a kunai, he knocked Naruto out with the butt. To the Hokage, he said to his colleagues as he picked up the unconscious blonde. How could you attack your own comrades like that? Sarutobi roared at the boy sitting in front of him. Silence. You incapacitated an ANBU and tried to kill an instructor. These are not minor offenses. Boo, quiet. Don't try that on me. I know exactly how strong you are. I know about Guy, Anko and the Forest of Death. Just because you have power does not mean you can misuse it like that. Look, I said I'm sorry and I actually mean it. What else can I do? I can't take back my actions now, can I? And how do you know about my training? I have my ways and your sorry doesn't cut it. Turning on your own comrade is the worst thing a shinobi can do. Do why? I know Gigi. I know exactly how wrong my actions were and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it, and I would take it back if I could. I understand and I'm truly sorry. It was just that Mizuki insulted my parents. I couldn't take that sitting down, snarled Naruto. So you attacked him? He attacked me first. Pulled moves that would have killed any other kid my age. What was I supposed to do? You shouldn't have fallen for his taunts. Go fuck yourself, you old man, shouted Naruto, his anger finally boiling over after many years. I've been taking shit from this village from the day I was born and I didn't say a thing. Now I retaliate a bit, and you act as if I committed treason. It's more complicated than that, Naruto. You can't you. This is because of what's in me, isn't it? I display a hint of violence, and you all assume that I'm being taken over. Sarutobi was stunned into silence. How who the CA? I know. And I've known for a long while. No thanks to you. And then you even go ahead and spout all that bullshit about trust and whatnot? Sarutobi's worst fears were coming true. The boy was finally reacting to the atrocities committed against him, but he definitely wasn't reacting in a good way. While it was good that he was finally letting out the bottled emotions, the depth of his anger was worrying. He needed to calm the boy down, and find out how the boy had discovered his own secret. Plus, the civilian council was definitely going to pay for the boy's blood. The rest of the council weren't going to be happy as well. He wasn't in the mood for explain Minato's seal to them once again. Naruto, I just wanted for you to have a normal childhood WG. What the fuck do you mean normal? Your bloody village tried to kill me again and again. What's normal about that? You should have told me that day at the hospital. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how you would react. How was I supposed to tell a 4-year-old that he was possessed by a demon? Meaning you didn't trust me enough to tell me. It wasn't a matter of trust. It was a question of what you would do with the knowledge. And at 4, your mind was definitely not ready for it. Ha! Guess when I found out? You don't man. Yes. Who told you? That's what you've wanting to ask the whole while, isn't it? That's all you care, Abu. No. I care about you. You think I don't trust you? Do you know the things I've done for you? Simply because I know you and I trust in you to do the right thing. You don't get it, do you? Get what? I never said you haven't done anything for me and I'm not angry with the rest of the village. I'm pissed at you and only you. I used to think the world of you, and then I find out that you've been hiding something as big as this from me. How the fuck did you expect me to react? I told you before that I did it to give you a Nor, and I told you that I don't care about the reasons. All I care about is the fact that the only person I trusted lied to my face. With that, Naruto got up and stormed out. Silence pervaded the Hokage's office for quite a while. "Oh Minato, how I have failed you," whispered Sarutobi with a voice filled with anguish. Guy had been sitting at home reading one of his many scrolls on taijutsu when he was interrupted by a knock on his door. An incident which surprised him. He had very few friends and none of them were the visiting type. Putting down the scroll, he walked over to his door and opened it. It was his most youthful student Naruto, a Naruto who looked extremely forlorn and tired. "Hi Guy-sensei, do you mind if I crash here for some time?" "Of course, my youthful pupil. Please come in." His student slouched in and crashed down onto his couch, giving its springs a hearty jolt. "Are you okay, Naruto?" "I'm fine, sensei. I'm just not in the talking frame of mind." "I see." Guy calmly sank into the couch next to the blonde and picked up his scroll again. Sometime it was better to let people stew rather than trying to butt in. This time however Naruto stewed for far longer than he expected him to. The boy was silent for more than an hour. "Sensei, what's the point?" Guy didn't look up from his scroll. "Of what?" "Of everything. My life's just been an endless cycle of training. I never got to have any of the fun other kids have. All those years and none of it matters now. I'm not even going to be made a shinobi." "What do I do now?" "Why won't you be made a shinobi?" "I tried to kill the teacher testing our taijutsu." "I see. That was quite an unyouthful thing to do. Please don't. I can't handle your youth shit right now." Guy put down the scroll and turned to face his pupil. "Tell me what happened." Naruto told him. "That was extremely stupid of you," said Guy when his student spilled the whole story. Guy wasn't and had never been one to mince words. "I know, not to mention treasonous. I know. Why did you never talk to me about all this? What was the point?" "The point was that this wouldn't have happened." His pupil was silent. "Naruto, I know you're not stupid. You know what most of the village thinks of you. Such actions will not be without repercussions. Fighting with the only person who could have helped you was definitely not a smart move. Look, I get it already. I fucked up. I don't nay. No. You don't get it. Situations like this happen all the time out in the field. Screw-ups are a part and parcel of being a shinobi. Sitting around and moping about it is not going to get you anywhere. If you want to fix it, then go out and do something about it." Naruto stared at his mentor in silence, his mind whirling with thoughts. A slow grin slowly spread out onto his face. "Sensei, you sometimes actually have some useful advice. I try to do my best. Now if you were just spouting that shit about youth," Guy twitched. Sarutobi groaned as he slowly lowered himself onto his chair. The meeting with the council had not gone well. Half of them were insisting that Naruto be sentenced and not allowed to graduate. The others were insisting that a Jinchuriki with such levels of talent could not be wasted. For a pre-genin to land a hit on an Anbu operative was unheard of. Frankly, he sometimes wished he had not granted them the level of power they now possessed. Most of the other villages were much more militaristic and the Kage's words were nothing short of the law. After an hour of deliberations, the meeting had been disbanded and postponed to the next day. The postponement was nothing more than a ruse. The time it granted would be used to indulge in a lot of backroom politics. Deals would be struck and money was going to change hands. Most of the clan had steered clear of such tactics. Most shinobi detested politics and preferred to not play an active role in it. Some, however, considered it to be a power play and had jumped right in. The civilian leaders were the most active ones. And the most dangerous ones as well. While the council couldn't outright overrule him, they could make life quite difficult for him. The civilian leaders played a huge role in the sustenance of the village economy, and he, as such, could never afford to offend them too badly. He had just lit up his pipe as a soft knock sounded on his door. He took a short drag and called, "Come in." Out of all the possible visitors he could have received, he had not expected it to be Naruto. Especially not so soon. After the morning's outburst, he had realized that the boy had clearly inherited his mother's temper and his father's skill of bottling emotions up. Two traits that did not go well together. "Hey old man. Mind if I come in?" Sarutobi nodded and gestured at his chair. He had been expecting to have to do a dramatic apology to get back into the boy's good books. Naruto nodded in thanks and slowly sat down in the offered seat. Sarutobi squared his shoulders and faced the boy head-on. He rested his elbows onto his table and placed his head on his palms. Comfortable, he looked right into the boy's eyes. A move that clearly unsettled him. Naruto instantly looked down and fidgeted a bit. Not wanting to start the conversation, he began to wait the boy out. It didn't take too long. "I'm sorry," the boy whispered, not meeting his eyes. "I'm sorry for the things I said today morning." Sarutobi digested the boy's words slowly. Clearly it had been hard for him to do that. He sighed. "I'm sorry as well," he said softly. "After these many years in this post I think I have lost the skill to interact with other humans effectively. At the time, my decision seemed to be the right thing to do. In hindsight I realized that I was just simply trying to control your life. I didn't make too much of an effort to really know and understand you. I simply did what I thought was best for you. Now I can see that my actions were misguided. I wasn't the person you needed. I was simply the person I thought you needed." The boy had looked up halfway through his monologue, his eyes wide. They continued staring at each other as silence fell upon them. "So what now?" asked Naruto finally. "Well, there are two ways to go about this." "Which are?" we go our different ways and never talk to each other again. And the second? We talk and try and improve each other. I think I prefer the second way. Sarutobi smiled. So do I. Who goes first? Why don't you go ahead? Why didn't you tell me about the QB? Because I knew that your life would be overshadowed by it, and I wanted to give you at least a few years without that pressure. But the villagers ruined any chance of that. I see now that I should have told you this much sooner, but I simply did not have the heart to lay that heavy a burden on you. A mistake you should learn from. Never let your emotions cloud your judgment. And I did try to improve their treatment of you. Do not think that I didn't. The law that prevents anybody from mentioning the QB was put in place so that people could not ill-treat you. But it is impossible to stamp out emotions such as hatred from people. Without a focus for our hatred, our emotions just begin to eat us away. I tried my best. Barring arresting every person who mistreated you, there was nothing I could have done. Naruto nodded. Does my answer satisfy you? Why didn't you tell me about my parents? Sarutobi suppressed his surprise. His turn would come soon, because they had many enemies and I did not believe that a 3-year-old had the skill to keep a secret. I planned to tell you when you graduated. You may believe that to be a convenient excuse, but I have no proof to offer you and it is up to you to accept it or not. No. I believe you. Why? Because I refuse to believe that you would lie to me after all this. You're not that bad, said Naruto with a hint of a smile. Sarutobi chuckled. My turn. Who told you about your parents and the QB? Naruto once again bowed his head and looked lost in thought. Do you really want to know? He asked when he finally looked up. I'll tell you if you insist. Are you trying to protect someone? No. You just won't like the truth. I've held this position longer than you can imagine, boy. I'm used to unpleasant truths. Naruto nodded and took a long pause. The QB told me himself. He showed me how they died. This time Sarutobi did not even bother hiding his surprise. Out of all the possible answers, this had been one he hadn't even dreamed of. In his mind, he had been cross-referencing all those who knew about the identity of Naruto's parents, and crossing them of one by one after gauging their loyalty. The fact that the boy could communicate with his Bijou was startling. While it was not unusual for a Jinchuriki to commune with his or her Bijou, to do so at such a young age was stunning. And deeply unsettling. Counseling his emotions, he barked, "Stand up and take off your shirt. Channel some chakra for me." Ignoring the boy's confusion, he got up and gestured for him to hurry up. The boy did as asked and Minato's seal materialized as clear as day on his stomach. Bending down, Sarutobi carefully inspected the markings. While he was nowhere near a master of Fuinjutsu as Jiraiya, Minato or Kushina, he had a level of knowledge which surpassed almost the entire shinobi world. He was known as the professor for a reason. After a few long minutes of careful inspection, he judged that the seal was perfectly intact. With a sigh of relief, he pushed himself up and sat back into his chair. The seal is still intact. You can get dressed. He waited for the boy to retake his seat. Tell me all. From the time you first spoke to him to now, the boy told him. That was foolish. Suicidal, he said with a shake of the head when the whole tale was out of Naruto. Why didn't you come to me after the first time? I was angry at you for not telling me yourself, shrugged Naruto. Sarutobi sighed and rubbed his face. Remember Naruto, never let your emotions cloud your judgments. The sanctity of that seal is not something which just concerns you. The safety of the entire village depends on you. Do not act so rashly again, then you're not going to like the next part, muttered Naruto sheepishly. A growing sense of dread began to develop in Sarutobi's heart. Hearing the rest of the anecdote did nothing to allay it. His anger getting the better of him, he jolted up from his chair and slammed his hands on the table. Open the seal and let him go. Are you just stupid, or do you keep doing these things just to irritate me? Why not? Why not? Why not? Do you even know how much trouble that would cause? The Shodai Hokage captured all the Bijou and then distributed them amongst all the villages. Do you know why? To maintain the balance of power. Losing the QB will cut back the village's power. If another village gets their hands on him, then the balance will be completely destroyed. War will almost certainly break out again. A cold look appeared on the boy's face. You're no different than the rest of them, he said, gesturing towards the village. What are you talking about? The way you talk about the QB and the rest of the Bijou. You consider them to be objects of power. Objects to be used and thrown away. Just like the village thinks of me. His words hit Sarutobi like an arrow. The boy was definitely wiser than he gave him credit for. He sat down again with a sigh. That is simply human nature, boy. When humans discover something they cannot understand, they do only one thing. They control it. I talk about the Bijou the way I do because that was the way I was taught, and I have never encountered anything or read any literature which ever suggested that the Bijou are anything but forces of destruction. And unless you have something to offer, then I'm afraid I'm not going to change my views. Didn't you hear what I said? The QB was being controlled. He didn't attack the village. Madara did. Madara, who nobody but the QB saw. How else could he have arrived in the middle of the village without anybody noticing? Without you noticing? The boy's riposte was difficult to counter. That was a question that had bothered him for many years now. Who had gotten through their barrier? Who had killed his beloved wife? He had soon deduced that it had to have been Akuchios. There was no other way that none of them had not noticed the chakra as large and malevolent as the Kyuubi's. The summoner must have been the one to pierce the barrier. And Madara was the only known summoner of the Kyuubi in recorded history. Sarutobi sighed. While I can't disprove you, neither can you prove your theory. Why can't you trust me on this? Trust in you on the fact that the creature that almost completely destroyed my village is not a psychopathic monster of destruction, and that the strongest Uchiha to have ever lived is still alive? Yes. Why do you trust him? Because I gave him the chance to kill me and escape and he didn't take it. Because he showed me my parents' last message to me. Because he told me himself that he was the one to kill my parents. Because he is a prisoner as much as I am. And because I have offered him what he wanted most. Freedom. He has no reason to lie anymore. Sarutobi stared at the boy. The boy with wisdom beyond his years. The boy who held a burden no one else did. The boy who had a deep sadness in his heart. The boy who was the son of two of the best people he ever knew. The boy whose words held a conviction he did not think he could waver. He decided to trust that boy. Something he hadn't done in a long time. Being a Hokage so long had stolen some of the base emotions from him. It came with having to send his own people to their deaths again and again. He also could not bear to fight with Naruto anymore. Fine, he said after a long time. I will trust you. The boy was even more surprised than he was of his own actions. But know this. If I'm wrong, then the lives of all the innocent lives in this village will be upon you. I would rather die than let that happen, the boy replied resolutely. Good. That's the kind of conviction I like to see. Now about today morning. Ideally, you should be punished for your actions, but I'm letting you go this time with just a warning. A final warning. I will not tolerate any more such incidents. The boy nodded. Good. This is going to cause a lot of irritation for me, but I'm willing to accept it this time. Secondly, I pronounce you to have graduated the academy as of this instant. The boy stood up in part excitement and part shock. Really? But how? I didn't give the rest of the tests in. I have spoken to Ox. You displayed exemplary levels of taijutsu and skill in ninjutsu in today's encounter. Plus, you managed to land a hit on an Anbu agent. That is proof enough of your skill. That is more than sufficient to graduate. But I only did it because he was underestimating me. That was his mistake. Not yours. It takes away nothing from your feat. Boo, do you want to graduate or not? Snapped Sarutobi. I do, replied a startled Naruto. Then stop complaining and get out. I have a lot of work to do. All thanks to you. We'll talk more later. Naruto bowed low and disappeared from the room as fast as he could. Naruto reached his apartment block and stopped at the entrance. He closed his eyes and channeled chakra into his ears and nose. Finding what he wanted, he shined to roof of his apartment. Hello, Ox-san, he said to the Anbu station there, hiding in plain sight. Yo, kid, I'm really sorry about today morning. I know it's not an excuse, but I had really lost my cool. It's okay. No hard feelings. Besides, I'm the one who should be thanking you. You reminded me of the cardinal rule of combat. Do not underestimate your enemy. Now that I'm going back to active duty, it's a good thing it happened. I don't think I really want to die yet, so my guard is being changed. It wasn't a question but rather a statement. No. The Hokage decided that you don't need one anymore now that you're a shinobi. He told me to stay until you apologized. Now that that's over with, my mission is done. That old man moved fast. He had left his office barely 15 minutes ago. Wait till I apologized? That manipulative old coot, Ox chuckled. Yeah, I know. He hides it pretty well, but he sure does know how to bend people to his will. Well then, before I go, tell me how you gave me the slip, Ox said as he got up. I used to create a Kage bunshin in the toilet, and then henge into a rat. Ox was silent as he stared blankly into nothingness. He then started banging his head against the tree. Fuck. How could I have missed something that simple? He said, punctuating every word with a knock. He stopped his actions and made to leap away. You owe me dinner, by the way. Your stunt has made me the laughing stock of the Anbu. I'm sorry, I guess, said Naruto, smiling sheepishly. Nah, it's okay. I'm leaving the village in a couple of days anyway. These things die down pretty soon. Wait. At least tell me your name. It's been 6 years, you know. Tenzo, Ox called as he jumped off. Naruto watched him leave and then jumped into his own apartment through his window. He walked over to his bed and fell into it. He started staring at his ceiling and was soon lost in his thoughts. In a while his thoughts turned into dreams. He started when there was a loud banging on his door. He looked up at his clock and saw that he had been out of it for quite a while. He pinched himself to make sure that he was actually awake. As far as he could remember, no one had ever come to his house before. It must be someone with the wrong address. He walked up to the door, took a calming breath and opened it. Waiting for him on the other side were Shikamaru and Chuji. Where the hell have you been for the whole day? Asked Chuji. We have been looking for you everywhere. Yes. Everywhere. You have no idea how troublesome it was, grumbled Shikamaru. Naruto stood with his mouth agape staring at them. Shikamaru reached out and closed his mouth. Mind if we come in? Naruto nodded feebly and moved aside, allowing them to enter. He rubbed his head sheepishly as they took in his messy living room. The room was filled with his scrolls. Since nobody ever visited him, he never bothered cleaning up. Naruto created a few clones who set about collecting them. Shikamaru grabbed one before a clone could grab it, and opened it. It was filled with his notes on the chakra restricting seal. Naruto, what is this? My notes. I can see that, but what is it? The library doesn't let me borrow books, so I have to read the books there and take down my own notes. So it's true then. You held yourself back in the academy. Why? Most of the adults already hated me. If I was the best, then I would have just drawn more attention to myself. I didn't need that. So I hid my true abilities. Besides, the Hokage has banned early graduation. I gained nothing by showing my real abilities. Naruto took the scroll from him and threw it into his bedroom. Naruto, why didn't you tell us? We're your friends after all, aren't we? Asked Chuji. Naruto stopped and turned around. I've been training hard since I was 4 years old. That's the only thing I ever do in my free time. It sort of became my private life, the time where I was alone and no one else bothered me. Somehow I never felt right talking about it. I see, said Shikamaru. Doesn't really make sense to me, but as long as it's the truth, I don't mind. Look, I'm sorry guys. You're the first and only friends I have, and I don't really know how to behave properly, you guys. Please forgive me for anything I may or may not have done. That's the thing, Naruto, said Chuji softly. With friends, there is not proper behavior or improper behavior. Just be yourself and trust us. I see, said Naruto slowly, as if he was digesting the information. Then I have something else to tell you guys. I will not judge you in any way if our friendship is over after this. This was it. He was going to tell them. He had known that this tipping point would come sooner or later, but now was the time for him to do it. He could not be upset with the old man for hiding things from him, while he did the exact same thing with his friends. Whatever he may be, he was definitely not going to be a hypocrite. You know that the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi, right? They both nodded. He didn't actually defeat it. He sealed it away. Naruto paused and took a deep breath. Into a newborn baby. His son. Me. A deep, tense silence suddenly occupied the room. Naruto stared at his friends and they at him. As the seconds slowly went past, the silence began to get through to Naruto. His heart was beating as fast as it possibly could. He wondered if he had made a mistake. Was he going to lose his soul confidence? Was he no longer going to be invited to their family dinners? Shikamaru slowly released his breath. Well, that explains a lot, he said cryptically. Yeah, nodded Chuji. I'm hungry. Let's go have some food. Will your uncle's place be still open, Chuji? Yeah. I'm hungry as well. Let's go. Both of them turned and made for the door. Naruto stood open-mouthed, completely lost by his friend's actions. What are you guys doing? What do you mean? Asked Shikamaru. We're going to have dinner. That's it. I mean, you guys are fine with it? Yeah, said Chuji. Why wouldn't we be? You mean you're really fine with it? Shikamaru sighed. Look, we're not idiots. We've known that there was something off about you for a long time. It didn't stop us from being friends. Now that we know why doesn't change a thing. Happiness bloomed within Naruto. With a huge smile on his face, Naruto walked out of his apartment with his friends. Thanks guys. You have no idea how much this means to me. I hope we're all in the same team. You graduated? Yup. How? Naruto told them the story as they walked. What if Naruto learns from the library Chunin exams? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.